Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from Nigeria, from Europe, and good morning if you're from every part of the world. My name is Reuben Brian, and I'm welcoming you to the Global Systems REFRAME Summit 2020. I'm so excited to be here on behalf of Dr. Brian Reuben and the project manager of Global Systems REFRAME Summit 2020. That's Sharon. We welcome you to this summit. Okay, a quick one. So I was having a short discussion with my friends just yesterday, and I was telling them, I said, the one thing I didn't like about the pandemic was not the fact that I had to stay at home and ended a holiday anyway. It was not the fact that we were locked up. It was not the fact that we had to wear masks, we had to do a lot of stuff. It was the fact that I didn't exactly have something that cannot be shot. Can you imagine? None. I mean, where I work, we had to be locked down. We had organizations, we had things, we had applications that could not be shot. It felt like they were prepared for the pandemic. It felt like they were the ones we needed now. And fortunately or unfortunately, the entire world could not do anything about it. And I watched right from my screens the way everything, money, resources, people, moved from majority into the hands of very few people. So recently, Dr. Reuben and I were having a discussion, and then we talked to that, and I just told him we came to a conclusion that regardless of your ethnicity, your religious bias, what you believe in, what you do, it's high time we take planning, we take strategy, we take being purposeful, being determined, we take it from just talking about it and from just writing about it into something that we can implement. We don't want to be at the back seat when very important things are happening. And thanks to visions of people like Dr. Reuben, I've been able to realize that there's a way out. Yes, I mean, beyond having we call it just the consumer's attitude, beyond having that, beyond just having a huge idea, beyond pursuing capital for it, whatever it is, we are ready. And I think just not me, to be in the position where every idea is strategically brought to life in such a way that you are able to grow into something, not your idea growing into something. Even you can grow into something that cannot be shot. So today we are going to be having a series of discussion put together by Dr. Reuben, Global Systems REFRAME. And by the way, if you're just joining, my name is Weighty and I'm the moderator of today's meeting. And you can find us on the Facebook page of Dr. Reuben. And please kindly like, share so that everybody can reach out. And if you're pre-registered, if you check your email, you will find a number of links there. One to Business Day, talking about the same thing. And another one is a link to a book, a PDF attachment. We'll talk about that later. Meanwhile, let me quickly go through the speakers of today. Today's topic is the main topic. The main thing we're doing is we are trying to reframe the globe. Let me try to rephrase everything, just reframing the globe. But we're going to do this under some key topics. We have beyond the cares, we have reviewing the world system, and we have leadership in uncertain times. Then we have understanding the opportunities available today to restore value-based systems. So I'm just moderating, like I said. Our keynote speaker definitely is Dr. Brian Reuben. He's going to be up in a minute. But I also have a number of them here. We have Dr. Grace Ahene. She's an author and a speaker, the businesswoman from the United States. We have Mr. Baongo Rams. He's a motivational speaker, he's a coach, and he's an author from Botswana. And I have Dr. Dwayne Holmes. I'm so excited about this lady. She's an author, she's a speaker, and she's an entrepreneur from the United States. We have Dr. Elvis Kessie, Bishop, televangelist from Ghana. And then I have Mr. Benjamin Kofi. He's a leadership consultant and public speaker, also from Ghana. We call them my brothers in Nigeria. We have Mr. Lovemore Jiza. I've been on your meeting once. I so look forward to hearing you today. He is an author and an entrepreneur from South Africa. And then we have Mr. Joseph Helen. He's an entrepreneur, he's a musician, and a gifted teacher of the word from Kenya. And then we have Mr. Tunde Success Usideko. He's a HR professional and consultant, and he's a Nigerian. So I'm going to be bringing up right now to talk to us about Beyond the Chaos, delivering the first keynote address of today. Please join me to welcome Dr. Brian Griffin, one of the most sought after African strategy advisor from Nigeria. Of course, he's based across the world. I like to call him that. I don't see him as a Nigerian citizen, he's a global citizen. So welcome, Dr. Brian Reuben. It's good to see you, sir.
Yeah, it is good to see you, Pedro. Thank you for the amazing work you are doing here today. And I want to say very big welcome to all of the other speakers, Apostle Duane Holmes, and hi, Apostle Holmes, and all of the other people who are joining us. I'm so excited. Hello, Benjamin. It's my pleasure to see you here today. I want to thank every one of you, and there are, of course, other speakers that are going to be joining us in the course of this conversation. Okay, so I'd like to jump in. Like I said before, and that we are now living in the days of difficulty is well understood. There are lots of troubles all over the world. In 2020, the world has experienced a chaos never before seen in modern history. And many people are confused, many people are concerned, and many people are wondering what's next. But the truth of the matter is that it's not necessarily about the chaos that we are seeing today that must be solved. It's more about what follows the chaos. It's more about oh, what it makes possible. We are facing a very disrupted system today. And the theme of this summit is realigning systems, nations, and people.
Cool.
Is now out of course. Now, if you look at the book of Hebrews, chapter number 11, verse 2, it shows us that systems can be repaired. But that can only be repaired by using the same substance that was used in framing the system's urbanization. Now, repairing system means understanding God's original concepts and ensuring that things are kept in alignment with his original concepts. And that doesn't happen except some people take a responsibility for it. Now, to take a responsibility, you need to understand what's going on. So my thing is to look beyond the chaos and understand.
Okay, all right, it's back.
So much of the problem today we have is not the chaos, it's rather the systems that the chaos has disrupted. And there is a need, a very important one, to restore these systems. We find people today who parade themselves as crusaders of freedom. The thing is now that they are crusaders of freedom, but it's about pushing ideas that are foreign to human nature. And you see, no matter how nicely those ideas may be dressed, and no matter how nicely they might be described, what we see is a normalization of abnormal, normalization of abnormality.
Okay, I think we're having a bit of network issues that's been sorted out presently. But just to keep you in the loop in case you're just joining us right now, this is okay. Dr. Brian is back.
I
Welcome back, sir.
apologize for all of the
No, it's okay.
difficulties we're having, and we're just gonna have to go ahead. Okay, so I was saying that what we see is not just a distraction that has taken over the whole world, but the effects of those distractions is what's really most important. What we find is the normalization of abnormalities. And for us that believe in God, we don't just sit idly by. We understand that what is happening, that there is a fight against the will, the purpose, and the timing of God. And we have a responsibility, a demand of destiny to respond. But to respond appropriately, we need to first understand what's going on, because if we don't understand it, we cannot respond appropriately. So dominion is not possible except you have a control of the sources and channels of information. And that's what we see in today's world, where many of the channels and sources of information can even not be trusted any longer. And this presents serious dangers. But also, that presents us with some window of opportunity that we can only take advantage of when we understand it. And that is what this whole summit is all about. We call it Global System REFRAME Summit because there is a need to reframe the various systems of the world. And like I said, we are seeing a window of opportunity to take dominion in the world, because chaos usually presents an incredible opportunity for those that can see beyond the chaos to reposition themselves. And in the course of these conversations today, we are going to see exactly and understand clearly how to leverage the opportunities we now have today that is staring right before our eyes. Because we cannot, it's not just enough for us to pray and hope that something goes right. We are seeing an opportunity to leverage and ensure that the values of the maker of the world will reach the world. But to do that, we need to understand. And that's the reason why we're having this conversation today. And I'm just going to have to take it back to Teju. So we just go ahead with the panel, in order for us to have the opportunity to bring our perspective on how to deal with the problems we are now facing, and how to awaken our listeners and participants to the extraordinary opportunities we have, and how to take advantage of those opportunities. So this is where I'm going to stop, and I'm going to try as much as I can today to be very conservative in my conversation. This is a meeting that it's open to everybody right here on the various platforms we're using. When we have the chance to have some closed door meetings, it's going to be a lot easier for us to deal with some issues in a way that is a little more open. So Paige, I'm just going to get right back to you while we can get all of the other participants on, and then we have this conversation again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reuben. I was already taking my notes, about to relax, almost forgetting that I'm the moderator. That's how involved I am right now, because like I said earlier, before we got to this point, I am so interested in what we can do as individuals, as members of an organization, and as the body of Christ also, to get this done. So, very quickly, we'll move on to the next segment, and we're going to be having the discussion in two sessions. Okay, the first set of speakers are going to be Mr. Baumborams. Of course, Dr. Brian Reuben is on, Dr. Elvis Kessie, Dr. Duane Holmes. I can see you. Good afternoon from Nigeria. I've been following your profile. I'm so excited to meet you. I can't wait to hear. Dr. Grace K. Ahene. So we are going to be talking about reviewing the word system. If you listen to what if you're just coming in, Dr. Brian made a very important point when he was trying to give his keynote address, Beyond the Chaos. He said, for you to even reframe anything at all, you need to understand God's original concept. That's the first thing. When you understand that, you can now figure out what you want to reframe. So we are going to start with this first session is reviewing the word system. I'm going to be asking my panelists a few questions. And please don't forget, if you're just joining, I'd suggest you get a pen and a note, whether you're joining on Facebook, on all of the platforms, please, you don't want to miss out on anything. And if you have any questions, apart from those who are on the panels, please write in the comment section. I'm sure the team will pick it up and relay it to us. Then, or an email will run that you can send it to. So I'm just going to go into it. So I can see Dr. Duane is here. Dr. Brian, okay, Dr. Brian is still on. Dr. Elvis is here. Nice to meet you, sir. Good afternoon from Nigeria. My name is Pedro Prince. I'm excited to meet you. Okay, so while we wait for Mr. Bangorams to come up and Dr. Grace, I'm just going to go on starting with media censorship. Across the world. I stand to be corrected, okay, but I have a very strong opinion that every media organization, whether it is social, whether it's in print, whether it's mainstream, has an agenda. So let's check. When we review the word system, media censorship, is truth under attack? Dr. Duane, can you do the justice to that? Media censorship, is truth under attack?
Yes, I can attack. I can address that. I think truth is under attack every single day, and truth is subjective according to the organization that is releasing the truth. And so you have to understand the alliances that are at work, not just in social media, but in all the organizations that are speaking and that are essentially framing our systems. And once you begin to understand who is framing it, then you begin to recognize and understand where their truth is coming from. But the other thing I think we have to understand as it relates to media, I'm a journalist by trade. So we're trained to look at the situation, to observe the situation, and then to tell our truth at generally a 9-year-old level. So that means I've got to be able to tell you what is happening in the world from the perspective of an elementary school. All right. While I'm doing that, though, I've got to also be able to recognize that according to who I may work for in the media, we may be told to do things and to say things that we're not necessarily aware of. Are you hearing me? And so from that perspective, yeah, truth is under attack, but it's very subjective. What my truth and your truth may be two different things. So from that perspective, as kingdom ambassadors, it is so important that we understand how to tap into discernment so that we can discern what is being told to us, and then from there be able to decipher how to vote, how to speak and how to be in alignment, because you never know when you're in alignment when evil, if you don't understand that evil is backing you. From a financial perspective, does that make sense?
It does.
So you just have to be aware. And on that note, of course, truth is being attacked. Truth is being attacked. But the one thing I stand by all the time is, no matter what, I will decree and I will declare that the truth of God and the truth of the kingdom supersedes everything else. And when that happens, I believe that the right discernment will come forth. I believe that God will shift things. He will shift nations. He will shift systems, and he will shift social media on your behalf so that he can ultimately have the victory.
Okay, that was totally unexpected. I'm just going to say that. That was amazing. Dr. Duan, thank you. I mean, one thing I'm going to take up from this is that truth is very subjective. Learn how to decipher minutes. She said truth is under attack every single day. And then it's subject to the organization who wants to say or represent the truth. Did I summarize you right, Dr. Duan?
Say that one time. Yes. Okay. You said it right.
I mean, and that's just it. Now she said no matter what, she brought it back to the kingdom perspective now. No matter what, the truth of the kingdom supersedes everything. I don't think I want to add anything for now. I'm just going to leave it. Maybe at the end of this session, Dr. Brian can do a wholesome summary to that. But I'm just still reeling from that. If you're just joining us, please, Dr. Duan Holmes is popularly called the media mentor. Forget about just Dr. Duan we're seeing here. So if you just put her name on Google, her books on Amazon will pop up, her page on Facebook will pop up. So after this meeting, you can go on and add more value to yourself with the materials. But for now, let's just continue. I'm going somewhere with this. Okay, so Dr. Elvis, welcome back. So for those who are joining us, Dr. Elvis is a bishop and a televangelist in Ghana. Just so you know, Bishop, I spent some time on your page, and I can see, I think I'm going to do some more of that after this weekend, because I'm meeting you for the first time through Dr. Brian, and I can say I'm really, let me just say, up for now. So I want to ask you a question, sir. How reliable is scientific research today? Has it been hijacked? Because we can see the most recent one being the, let's narrow it down to health and technology, about the issues we had during the 5G, regardless of which country you are. We heard of all manner of theories, the 5G, the 4G, the virus. So it was like a boiling pot of all manner of scientific stuff. So I want to ask you, sir, how reliable is scientific research today? Do you think it has been hijacked? We need your insight on that.
Okay, first of all, I want to thank God for this privilege. Also to thank Dr. Brian and yourself, Pedro, and Dr. Juan for being part of this great movement. I would say, let me start from where Dr. Juan just ended. You see, we live in a world where it is as if everybody is entitled to his or her personal freedom and her personal beliefs. And when I say that, then I am trying to say that so long as we are made to appreciate our individuality, and we all are entitled to what we believe, what we hope for, and what we go after, then that is where the problem sets in. You see, when you look at the 7 mountains, or as it has been believed and established, the culture, the government or politics, the media, celebration, as well as the art and science, when we're talking about religion, we're talking about education, and family and so forth, you will realize that in today's media or world of media, in today's world of science, there are so many competitions and there are so many warfares, in the sense that what you intend to innovate and introduce into your world to affect your world positively will always be brought under subjugation and will always be surrounded by warfare. So it is a battle of competition and a battle of I want to rise and I want to bring you down. So this is the kind of world we find ourselves in. However, like Dr. Dwan said, if you are a believer and you believe in God, and your faith in God is so much rooted, and you trust God to bring about a means of transforming this generation and your world, I think you have almost about 99% yes for that. In that regard, the world we live in today, most people have lost their sense of direction, and for that matter, instead of establishing factors and realigning systems that will establish our world into stability and peace. Unfortunately, where I come from, being an African, so to say, and where I come from, one of the major challenges we have is excellent leadership. And when there is excellent leadership, it always contributes to the fact that the people are given the competent and the maximum platform to express themselves to profit the other people. So comparing this so far to the question, I think that we live in a generation where those of us who claim that we know God, we have the most outstanding privilege to affect and to transform our world. And this is why we need to buy into some such platforms that will also wake us up, so that our into the world of science will give our world a place of excellence and completion.
Dr. Elvis Kessie, thank you so much. I'm so grateful for that. That's a very nice submission. From the very first statement, I love the direction it was going. It says there are too many warfares and too many opinions. And if you consider the fact that you brought the African thing into it and brought the leadership thing into it, it boils down to the fact that everywhere, regardless of whether it is inside science or something, it's a function of human beings, and it's a function of the ideologies they represent and the people or the things that are backing up their belief system. So it's possible if you have someone who is into research, whether pure science or social science, and it's got ulterior, or he or she has got an ulterior motive or a good motive or a bad motive, it will definitely probably tamper with the results of, it may or may not be hijacked. It depends on who or whatever is backing that person up. So Dr. Elvis Kessie, did I capture what you said properly? I want to be sure I did, just for the sake of those who are just coming in.
Yes, you did.
All right, thank you, sir. So I don't know if Dr. Brian Reuben is still on. My screen is showing only me, so I have to be sure. Dr. Brian.
Absolutely, I'm here.
Okay, good to hear you back. So based on, can you do like the next question on my paper says, can information sources be trusted? But I would like you to merge media censorship and scientific research together. Since at the end of the day, they both give us information, whether it is informed or not. They both produce an information or some information, So can you help us do that while Dr. Doan can start thinking of cases of increase in indebtedness and implications. So after Dr. Doan is going to give us maybe some 5 or 10 minutes expose on increase in indebtedness and implications across the world. So Dr. Brian, can you give us like some 5 minutes insight on how well can we trust information sources coming from the perspective of
Okay.
media in scientific research?
If I understand your question, you're asking how can we trust information sources? Is
Yes,
that the
sir.
question?
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the thing is, um, Apostle John did a very interesting analysis of
Yes.
whether truth is under attack or not, and that's quite interesting. Now, regarding information sources and whether they can be trusted, we live in a world where, see, when I was doing a keynote, I did point out that if you want to take control of any system or the world, there are two key things you need to control. And that is information sources and the channel of disseminating information. If you can capture the two, you can hypnotize a whole generation. You can hypnotize a whole nation and cause people to believe what you want them to believe. I did mention that what we see today is a fight to normalize abnormalities. It is a fight to impose some kind of values that are not consistent with human nature on everybody. And those are very serious issues. Generally, what will happen in such a circumstance is that people will revolt, people will fight against it and seek to oppose that. Now, the only way you can have to control people to go in line with you, to believe that your truth is the truth, is by control over the sources and channels of information. So, if we are living in an age of deception, it does clearly also mean that you can even hardly trust the sources and the channel of information. When you talk about media censorship, mainstream, social media, when you talked about that, that is a channel of information. All right? When you are talking about sources of information, you are dealing with research and dictionaries and encyclopedias, so that if I want to do a research, I will end up arriving at what you want me to arrive if you have control of that. So when people can research and arrive at what I want them to arrive at, then I'm in total control of the system. And it is only then can I tame and put people under my control. So the truth about it is that absolutely, information sources can today be hardly trusted. And I'm going to give you some examples just in a moment. But before I do that, I'd like to point out something very clear. I know that truth is usually regarded as something that is very subjective. But you know, all of us here believe in God, all right?
Yeah.
And have faith in Jesus Christ. Okay, now that's something that makes us very, very unique. And according to the one we believe in, there is only one truth. Jesus said, I am the truth. He didn't say there are many different kinds of truths. So there is one truth. It's our responsibility to ensure that that one truth does not come under contention. Now that's very important. It's our responsibility to use the channel and sources of information to keep the truth where it belongs. If we don't do that, we will be failing in our assignment. So I'm just going to give you some examples. You all know the encyclopedia called Wikipedia. It's an kind of open source, platform where you can get information. Now, the co-founder of Wikipedia is called Larry Sanger. And recently, he came out with a clear allegation He actually did a blog post. Anybody can read the blog. If you do a search, you'll find it on Google. And he said that the neutrality policy of Wikipedia is dead. The Wikipedia, when they started out, set out to be neutral. But he said that policy is dead. I mean, anybody can do the search and find it. I didn't say that. Larry Sanger did. And he noted that, for example, that the article on President Donald Trump, that in that article you find all of the scandals around him well articulated and written. But when it comes to the article about someone like President Barack Obama, you rarely find some of those scandals, the scandals that have to do with him being mentioned. And he said that that means Wikipedia is no longer being neutral. Now, in Wikipedia, that's just one source of information, because sometimes I speak with people and they say, well, I've done my research. And I always like to ask, what are the source of your research? What is the source of the information? Because if I can control the source of the information, after your research, you will end up at what I want you to end up at. For example, if I want everybody to believe that there are multiple ways to God, if I can control the source of information, if you do your research, you will arrive at what I want you to arrive at. Now, when you want to realign the world and keep systems and peoples and nations in its place, you want to look at what the source of information now look like and whether they have been compromised. And if they have been compromised, that becomes a valid ground for doing what you call industry inversion. We have seen through history that giants come up and go down. It's a normal thing. And this only happens when giants, whether they are media giants or sources of information, wherever they are, or financial institutions, all right, when they begin to compromise the values that are established by God, they have signed their ticket to exit in the industry. And I can give you one example after another. I'll give you one example with a company we all know. It's called Kodak. There was a time a Kodak engineer called Stevenson. He was a person. Now we are all live, and we are all using digital camera in this conversation today. But that wouldn't have been possible without the digital camera. Now the gentleman who invented the digital camera, his name is Stevenson. He was a Kodak engineer. In, I guess, 1995, he went to his superiors and said, I've discovered what you call the digital camera. They said, this is wonderful, but don't let anybody know about it. Kodak did that because they were controlling 90% of the film and chemical industry in the United States and 60% of that industry around the world. And they knew that digital camera posed a challenge to their business. They wanted to kill the idea. But the world in all this trouble always moves ahead. And you cannot stand against the force of God's movement, which is manifested in products and services and solutions. You can't do that. If you try to do that, the force of God's goodness will push you out of the way. So yes, information sources cannot be trusted. But thank God, that's an opportunity for somebody watching right here today to take dominion, to take charge, to give us new sources that can be trusted. Now that is the advantage that this opportunity, the opportunity that the whole chaos we now see gives us. And the world moves forward when people make up their mind to take responsibility for change. The moment that happens, things shift in multiple dimensions. I believe that all of us can understand this. So you have that understanding, that clarity, that information sources today cannot be trusted. You find, if you do some research about climate change, you find different scientists, different things. Some are promising and some are. If you do research in every other area, you find the same thing. Just yesterday, YouTube came out with a policy that they will not take down any video that challenges the legitimacy of Mr. Joe Biden's election in the United States. Now, we all know that that case is still in court. Now, That's something very clear. Now, if you want to give everybody a level playing ground, you have no reason to decide to suppress some people against another. A young woman in the United States made a video, and in the video she said, men are not men, women are not women. YouTube deleted the video. Many people trust YouTube for not just as a channel of information, but as a source also. So absolutely, we can see that clearly. Sources of information have been compromised. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brian.
Thank you.
I'm laughing.
Dr. Brian.
I'm taking my notes.
I'm laughing because
I was expecting you to continue.
Taking my notes, so
I checked my time and I'm like,
I was
okay,
expecting you to continue. I checked my time and I'm like, okay, you need to stop.
We don't have the whole day, but we all understand that this is
so
I would say one
I'm not
of the
going to do any summary.
in this time.
I'm not going to do any summary. Self-explanatory.
I have a bit of going on here. I don't know if technical.
I have a bit of going on here. I don't know if technical connect.
Okay, so Dr. Duan, you're on now.
Okay, so Dr. Duan, you're on now. I send it up.
For those who are just joining us, I've said it before, Dr. Duan Holmes.
For those who are just joining us, I've said it before, Dr. Duan Holmes.
She is based in the United States. She is the author. She's the woman of the Word of God. She's an author. She's a speaker. She's an entrepreneur, and she's been with us since we started. So right now, she'll be speaking on increase on indebtedness and implications. That's we have more people owing money for whatever reason. Apparently, I mean, for some countries, I don't know, but some countries, like where my sister, I heard the palliative was not exactly find a way to pay back eventually. And I think beyond that, there's some ripple effects of bad decisions, even way before the pandemic came. But across board, we discovered there's increase in indebtedness. People are owing for whatever reason. So she's going to tell us why and the implications of that. Welcome on board again, Dr. Duan. Nice to have you.
All right. Thank you so much. I think, wow, this is a great discussion. I think we have to remember now that we're in the midst of a global pandemic. And because we're in the midst of a global pandemic, there is an increased debt everywhere. We just learned recently that the United States is now $27 trillion in debt since October. But we've been increasing in debt since 2008. And everyone else is doing the same. But here's what happens in the midst of this global pandemic. In the midst of this global pandemic, we have reduced income, and then we have a rise of employment. We have businesses closing, and then we have the economies of the world literally coming to a halt. But the number one thing that we have to recognize is that the economies of the world are being disrupted. All right? They're being disrupted. What does that mean? That means there's a disturbance of problems, but there's also the possibility and opportunity for radical change. That also means that we as a people can't rely on the world's economy to push us forth, and we have to be ready to create our own economy. And so I'm going to go spiritual with you.
Please go ahead. You're free.
And so what God has been dealing with me on is his prophetic economy. If each one of us can tap into our own prophetic economy, then we won't have to worry about the world's economy, although we need to be concerned about it. Because when the global economies are disrupted, that means we are impacted in ways that we never imagined. But it's also the huge possibility that in the midst of this disruption due to debt and due to all of the indebtedness, the implication is that we as kingdom ambassadors, if we can tap into our own prophetic economy, we can grow our own economy in the midst of debt and not necessarily have it be related to the global economy. What does that mean? That means each and every person who's hearing me right now needs to learn how to make money online. All right? You need to understand where to invest and where not to invest. But you'll never be able to do that if you don't understand the profit potential on the inside of you. All right? Each one of us has a profit potential. Each one of us has the ability to increase our income without ever leaving our house. If we at least all I need is an internet connection and a phone. All right. But if I can't tap into my profit potential and I'm overly concerned about my nation's economy, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to succumb to it, and it is going to overtake my ability to produce. And so what I'm seeing now is, and we see this all along, history shows us that in the midst of a pandemic, we have the ability to create the most amount of millionaires in the midst of a pandemic. All right. But you have to also now deal with what I call the disenfranchisement of the people, because there are so many people who rely on the way the world used to turn that now, because of this disruption, we have an unbelievable amount of people in debt, and an unbelievable amount of people who don't know where they're going to live, sleep, and who also don't know how they're going to take care of their families. But I believe as kingdom ambassadors, if I could have 12 and teach 12 and we continue to expand, then I believe that we can take care of those who are not able to take care of themselves. But we have to begin to teach people how to think strategically. Because me losing my job, I'm not going to be satisfied trying to find another job in the midst of a broken economy. In the midst of a broken economy, I won't be satisfied until I'm able to create my own economy. And I will not be able to create my own economy if those who are walking in authority aren't able to teach me how to duplicate and how to multiply on just a basic level. All right. And so it's so important now that we understand there's good disruption and there's bad disruption. What I'm saying is, because of this bad disruption, now we have an opportunity to create a good disruption that will cause us to be able to tap into the ability to create streams. And so what I teach my mentees, what I teach those I lead, is that this is the time to learn how to tap into a river that will not run dry, but you've got to learn your profit potential, and you've got to learn the reason that you are here on this earth. And I believe that's why we're all here together, because we are strategists who know how to help others, not just multiply, but we know how to help others profit in their pain and profit in their purpose, so that it can impact not just me, but it can impact nations. Does that make a little bit of sense?
A whole lot of sense. I have my notes. Oh my God. I like the fact that you kind of figured your audience, so you slow down to explain and put the details in. What I can take away from here real quick, if you're just joining us, her topic, the subtopic she just handled was increase in indebtedness and the implications. And then she told us that, of course, beyond the fact that people were owing before now, The pandemic increased their debt profile, and those who weren't owing before are now in debt, and that's spread across the world. Even countries as a whole are owing. She said you have to be ready to create your own economy. That's when she said she was going to go spiritual. She mentioned prophetic economy. I'm going to research on that, so listen to you over the next 6 months. Let me see if I'll pick exactly what you mean there. But the simple part of prophetic economy is you have to be ready to create your own economy, regardless of what you have before. Learn how to make money online. She said, know where to invest. Understand your profit potential. That's what you have inside of you, not just potential. I used to make that mistake a lot. And that was how I met Dr. Reuben, actually. I knew my potential. I did not know how to make profit from it. And this goes to those of us who are privileged to be leaders. I said, we have to teach people how to invest strategically. It's amazing to know that we have a lot of people that depend on other people to do the thinking for them. So if you're blessed with such people in your life, you need to grow up so you can teach them how to invest strategically, how to tap into a river that never ends, and then how to improve their profit potential. See all these things I just said. I'm sure if you allow her to expand it, we are going to spend the whole day here. So, but like I said, their names are on the screen. You can see it. I've done my due diligence, so I know this is exactly how their names are on all their major platforms. Please do a screenshot, write their names down, and take your time to go through the materials later. So I'm just going to, as we have captured Dr. Mind effectively. Yes, sir.
Can I add just a couple of things to what?
Oh, please do, sir.
Yeah, Dr. Brian, thank you so much for that incredible perspective. But here is something I like to just bring out to your notice, and it is this, that debt can be a strategic weapon, and it is right now being used against the whole world. You see, I always think to, I'm trying to be very conservative in my comments here because we're an open platform. Otherwise, there's a lot of backstory I would have loved to give you, but I'm going to keep most of the stories for personal discussions, okay? And for many of you who've already registered ahead of time, we can, during the master classes, have some more, some more clearer picture of what I'm trying to talk about. But here is this. I want to think and understand that debt can be a strategic tool. You see, the best strategies are formless and invisible. They are formless and invisible. The competitor doesn't know what to defend against. If people can cost your business to less money, lock you up and do whatever so that you are in debt and more debt, it becomes easier to control you. All right? And I just wanted to think along this perspective. Remember, I told you that right now, many of the leading organizations have lost their authority to lead. You lose your authority to lead the moment you begin to compromise, the moment you begin to do things that will give you undue advantage against other people. And I hear the perspective I want everybody watching and listening right now to this. And it is the fact that it took a David to bring the Goliath down. He didn't have the tools and the resources, but he had a vision. You're getting this very clear. Facebook receives over 1.7 billion visitors every day. 1.7 billion. Of these 1.7 billion, 75% of them visit the platform every day. YouTube has over 30 million visitors every day, who watch over 5 billion videos every day. Do you know the interesting thing? Google didn't create YouTube, they bought it in 2005. Think about it. Google didn't create Android, which is a platform that runs on the phone of many people. They bought it just a couple of years ago. The same thing goes with Instagram and with WhatsApp and several of these platforms. When Apostle John talked about starting your own business, I want to think out of the world. I wanted to realize that the Android and the iOS are not the best platforms we have. Before they came about, we were fine with what we had. When they came about, they realized that we have something good. There is something even better than that. Everything that they have that we are seeing today came out of God's eternity. Eternity is that perfection in God, in which He's able to exalt Himself above all the temporal limitations of science and successions of moments. I'm sure somebody is understanding that. And it's able to contain the whole of His existence in one present indivisible whole. Now, everything we've seen in this world came out of His eternity. I am challenging people listening today to think of the next big thing better than Android, better than YouTube, better than Instagram, better than Facebook, because it is possible. And we find ourselves in a day we are in search of solutions, because the ones who seem to be the giants in providing solutions have compromised. They are very rich, but they didn't start out being rich. They start out with impressive ideas that say to extend freedom to more and more people. That freedom is being denied right now. That's your next big opportunity. And I wanted to ride on the wave of it. That's what I wanted to add to that.
It's always a pleasure listening to Dr. Brian Reuben. Always a pleasure. So I'm just going to rush on before I keep doing introduction.
That's what I wanted to add.
I'm going to go on to Dr. Elvis Kessie. Now, Dr. Elvis Kessie is speaking to us from Ghana. And did we discover something that shortly after the lockdown was released across the world, just shortly after that, we had a wave of protests that eventually led to violence. Initially, I thought it was just in America, then it moved down to my country, from Black Lives Matter to the NSAS protest. So we would like Dr. Elvis to tell us, or to just, why is there so much activism on the streets, on social media, on our streets physically, even in the minds of men, women, children, regardless of the threat of the COVID, people were ready to go to the streets to protest for something. It was all over the world at some point. Dr. Elvis, over to you. Can you give us some insight into that?
Okay, thank you so much. I was really enjoying the presentation and the submission from Dr. Duan and Dr. Brian. So it's been awesome. Let me start by saying that we live in a participatory universe. We live in a participatory universe. And the kind of universe we live in, the moment you are born into this earth or into this world, you realize that there is an inner need you discover within you. And individually, and the masses, the world, the nations, the continent, there is a need everybody is craving for. There is a satisfaction everybody is desiring for. But the questions I want to put across is that, who is the key player in this satisfaction? And then what do we want to achieve? And then the third one is, how do we want to achieve that? So you realize that looking at the violence, looking at the consistent activism on the streets in America, like we said in Nigeria, and then this just ended election in my country, Ghana. You see a lot of people on the street trying to protest against something here and there. But you realize that at the end of the day, there is something these people just want to be satisfied with. But how they are going about it, and then when it is granted to them or given to them, how they are able to maintain or keep it is where the key problem comes from. Now, back to the three questions I've just asked across. Who is the key player out there? So in the dictionary, you realize that activism is defined as a policy of activity campaigning to achieve political or a social goal. So all these people we see out there on social media, on the streets of nations and continents, they just have something they want to achieve, and that thing has not clearly been spelled out. So how they are going about it is the use of social media, and then the life of activism on the street, violence and route and so forth. So the key player in every activity in terms of achieving our political and our social goal with regards to so much activism in our world today is just have been misplaced. Because those who are on the streets, those who are on social media, the question is that do they know what they need? Have they defined what they are going after? Because until you discover who you are and until you discover your personhood, you miss every activity you make a move for. And a lot of people probably are under the influence of the very core of few people who have discovered who they are with regards to their ability, their uniqueness, their mandate, their assignment, and their talent, as well as their God-given graces. So most of them have not discovered that they are the first factor that comes to play. So when you discover who you are, why you were born into this world, and what you are capable of doing, that's where you measure how you do some of such things. And then what do we want to achieve? Okay. So if it is to achieve a political or a social goal, then it means that the factor of how we are going to get it done, and then the factor of what at the end of the day, our moves, our activism, and whatever we are doing on social media, whatever we are doing on the streets of our countries and our continent, at the end of the day, we will do it the right way, not at the end of destroying things, not at the end of the day, adding pain to pain, adding destruction to destruction. So I think confidently that there are so much of activism on the streets and on social media just because a lot of people have not discovered their God-given ability and their natural abilities as well, and to also express themselves in it. And so in saying this, it's like they are living to depend on other people, or the very few who have had the grace and the ability to discover this I'm talking about and to make it profitable to their world.
That's mind-blowing. I mean, my mind was actually going, when I saw the question, my mind was going somewhere else. But the way he puts it now, it's totally different. Summary, they haven't found their God-given abilities and potentials, and they are dependent on some other people, and that's why they have to go into activism, probably when they feel that things are not going their way or something. Dr. Brian Reuben, do you have anything to say before I bring in Dr. Duan on that?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Dr.
Okay.
Elvis. Dr. Elvis, if everybody will wake up to their God-given abilities, things are going to be completely different, because a busy man who's taking responsibility will have less to think about activism, whether on the social media or on the streets. That's particularly correct. Very important for us to understand that. But Pedro, I think your question sounded like shortly after the. Can you reframe that? Can you give me that question again?
Okay, so the question is, why is there so much activism today? We've always had, activism is in the context of people thinking they've been cheated out of something,
I get
and
that.
yeah, so
I
why do we
get
have
that.
it more?
I get that. I get
across
that.
board, on the streets, on TV, on the media, in the media.
2019 was declared as a year of activism because there was massive protests all around the world. And then we had 2020, beginning with a pandemic that has taken over the whole world. And there is something remarkable about 2023. And it is the fact that shortly after the wave of the coronavirus in the United States, we experienced a movement like never before seen. In fact, in the month of October, there's something I call global strategy briefing. We had to focus on competition in the age of activism because there's a lot of it today. So shortly after that wave, the next thing we saw was a Black Lives Movement matter that took over the social media, took over the streets of major cities around the world. That took over the streets of major cities around the world. And what we saw is that after that, it gradually moved from Black Lives Matter to defund the police. Then we all saw that. And then surely we heard something similar start in Nigeria. And it was also, suddenly we saw a movement they called NSAS. Has something to do with police also. And there was massive activism around that. I'm not going to say a lot on this platform, but I will say a lot in the masterclass and tell you how this is well thought out strategic tool. So I'm going to stop there. But what we are saying is not just that people are becoming more aware of their rights. They are empowered by some people. It's okay to be empowered. What the problem is to me is whether whoever is empowering them has the right interest. And that's where it gives concern. That activism don't happen on their own. They have leaders, so that the leaders can be seen or cannot be seen. There's always leadership. So the question is, what is the motive behind the activism? That is what should be of more concern. Thank you.
Okay, whoever is empowering them should have the right interests, which is very true. Because initially I used to naively think that protests just happen because we have disgruntled people. But across the world, the way protests are very organized these days, it's apparent that whoever is sponsoring them must have the right kind of agenda. If not, it's going to blow up in the faces of whoever is involved. Okay, so we are going to round up this session very soon. I have just one more question. Yes, we've heard expositions, although short or media censorship is the truth under attack. How reliable is scientific research? Can you trust information sources? You know, and in this segment, we've been big on we live in our comfort zones that we are and getting out there strategically with our gifts, our talents, our earning potentials, and everything, and ensuring that we grow to that place of control, you know. Well, we still have one more question, and this one is for Dr. Duan. How should God's people respond to the changes around the world? By changes, I mean, I don't know how the children of this age, I mean, from 18 downwards to 0, I wonder how they cope with the rapid nature. You know, when I was growing up, it was easy for me. I may not see a new model of TV in 5 years. You know, I may not see a new kind of makeup in 1 year or two. My dad, if we had a computer, then it was probably in his office, one to the entire organization. But these days, iPhone comes out almost every 6 months, fashion changes, information is bombarded every second. When I was doing my research had my second degree several years ago. As at then, I remember my supervisor telling me that even the last 5 minutes, your information is obsolete. So I can imagine what goes on now. So Dr. Joan is going to tell us, how should God's people respond to the changes around the world? And then we'll go for a brief 10 minutes break after her.
All right. Thank you so much. I think the number one thing that we have to remember is that change and transition are synonymous.
Okay.
So change is exactly what transition is. And in the midst of transition, what we have to remember is though even if change is hurtful, even if change doesn't feel good, change can also be a good thing. And so what I tell people is, number one, you've got to be faithful. And number two, you've got to be flexible. In the midst of unexpected change, you've got to be flexible with how you respond, because having the flexibility to respond differently will keep you at the level you need to be kept at. What does that mean? Last year, coming into 2020, the word of the Lord that I gave the people who were listening to me is that 2020 would be a year of course correction. 2020 is a year of course correction. What does that mean? That means we're walking down a course and all of a sudden things are changing. And now God is giving us the ability to change our course, but also there will be disruption in our course. And we have to be flexible enough to still walk in faith and still tap into our potential. All right, we walk by faith, not by sight, and we walk with flexibility. So that means in the midst of this disruption, we've got to find our superpower. All right. In the midst of this disruption, we've got to find our superpower that will cause us to profit in our purpose. And I say there are 3 ways that you've got to be able to do that. Number one, you've got to identify your pain point. What is the thing that is causing you so much pain in the midst of this pandemic that you feel like you're not going to make it, even though you're being flexible with God, even though you're still walking by faith and not by sight? But what is that thing that makes you feel like you want to just throw in the towel? That is your pain point. All right. And I want you to hold on to that pain point. Once you identify that pain point, the next thing that you've got to do is you've got to tap into your power point. What in you gives you the ability and the power supernaturally to deal with the pain so that you can get through. And once you identify how you can get through with that power point, I'm telling you, God will give you the ability to profit, PROFIT. So now I've got pain. I've identified my pain. I've identified my power, that thing supernaturally that allows me to get through this pandemic. And now that I've identified A, B, C, D, E, and F for myself, I can now transition that to someone else. And once I teach myself how to profit in my pain, guess what? I have the ability and I have the potential to teach others how to do the same. And what I'm saying to each and every one of you today is that even in the midst of this pandemic, where it looks like your money is funny and your change is strange, as we say in the United States, guess what? There is still the ability to profit in your purpose. And the purpose that you thought you were going to profit in years ago may not be what God is going to cause you to profit in right now. Why do I say that? And how can I help you see this thing? I recently said, you know what? Let me stop and see where my profit margins are best in media. And when I looked at my profit margins in media, I was able to see the trend that is coming and hitting the whole globe. The trend is, if you can figure out how to help people communicate properly and learn how to operate online, you will not just help them, but you will help yourself. So when I looked at my profit margins, I saw that websites logos and just social media management is what people want right now. Everybody wants to know how to prosper online. So now, instead of focusing on what I thought I was going to focus on, I've now had to create packages that deal with just what the people need so that I can profit in the midst of this pandemic. So I don't look at my profit margin and say, oh my goodness, all of these other business resources are going down. No, I look at what is going up and I focus in on what is going up. So the question to each and every person today is what in your life and what around you is going up? Even in the midst of your pain, what is that thing that you can birth out to help not just yourself, but help someone else? Because if you can identify your pain and you can identify the power in that pain, you can definitely identify how to profit in your purpose, because God is giving you the ability to find your superpower and your profitability in your purpose. I'm telling you, this is the year of course correction. That's all we've seen throughout the year, no matter what has happened. And I'm telling you, there's still enough days in the end of the year for you to course correct so that you can profit in your purpose.
Thank you very much, Dr. Duan. I knew I was going to get that word, course correction. Yes, it's still the year of course correction. I'm not going to do any summary, please. If you want a summary of today's meeting, I'm sure the audio or the transcription is available. Just send a DM, like a direct message, to the Facebook link you're watching from, or you can send an email to Dr. Brian, yes, Dr. Brian Reuben. They'll put that option. I know I said Dr. Duan is rounding up, but my spirit is telling me that Dr. Elvis has something to say. I can just feel him from here, just for 2 minutes, before Dr. Brian finishes up this session and we go for a short break. Dr. Elvis, please, your background, I'm going to hear that thing for 2 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Duan, for this deeply revealing submission. Still on change as God's people. 3 things I have discovered about change is that, number 1, change is constant. Number 2, change is possible. And number 3, change is not automatic. So let me start by saying, change is not automatic in the sense that you need to appropriate the factors that gives birth to change. So you can't fold your arms and expect change to be effected in your life. It can never happen so. Even the God that we serve, our Father, from the beginning of Genesis, the Bible says that, and God said, and God said, and God said, and God saw. So throughout the book of Genesis chapter 1, you will see a repetition of God said, and God saw. So God even wanted to see a kind of change, even in his creation. He needed to effect that change by actively appropriating some probable factors. Now, when you look at the probable dimensions that brings about change, you realize that there are changes you initiate as an individual, and there are changes that happens around you, and there are changes that happen to you, and there are changes that happens within you. So then, anyone that wants to experience change in his individual life and to also affect his world and his globe with that kind of change needs to understand that God supports change personnel. God is always looking around for people who raise up their hands and strategically position themselves to be used to effect a change. I always say that any life that does not profit humanity is a wasted one. For example, in the Bible, you look at a man like Methuselah. The Bible says that he was almost about 969 years. The only account that was given about him was that he lived, he was born, and he died. There was no label of any impact he made to his world. So our world is expecting and looking up onto children of God to bring about the kind of change they want to see in the world of science, in the world of media, culture, and family. For whatever the child of God stands for, according to Romans 8:19, according to the Bible, says the earnest expectation of the creature of God waiting for the manifestations of the sons of God. So God will use other people of different religions and different cultures to bring about change. But we have what we call redemption, and that is to say, by redemption, we have the more excellent privilege ahead of others to bring about change. And in that, like Dr. Duan said, we need to discover our pain point. That is to say, for whatever God allows us to go through, He meant it and to package it to transform others. And then we also need to have the perseverance capacity. A lot of people don't have capacity. The little thing that happens around them, that happens to them, then they throw in the towel. We need to persevere. If we discover that we are agents of change for our world, for our God, for our nations, and for our globe. If with these keys, I think that we stand to be endowed with many abilities to bring about change in our world.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elvis Kessie. If you're just joining us, we have come to the end of the first session, and I've been hanging out with Dr. Duan and Dr. Elvis and the coordinator, the host of today's meeting, Dr. Brian Reuben. So he will share the grace, that's in Christian Palace. I didn't mean because of our Lord Jesus Christ. His own summary, and then after him, I'll see you during the second session. Welcome back, Dr. Brian.
All right, I want to thank you, Pedro. You're doing a great work, and I want to thank Dr. Duan, Dr. Elvis for all of the insights that you've shared today. And I want to believe that all of our viewers from around the world are getting incredible understanding about how to take advantage of what's going on today. Here is something I want to leave you with. We are in a period of rapid change, guaranteed. It was Nathan Rothschild, a famed British banker and financier, that said, the greatest fortunes are made when the cannonballs fall at the harbor, not when the violins play in the ballroom. I'm going to say it again. The greatest fortunes are made when the cannonballs fall at the harbor, not when the violins play in the ballroom. This is our moment. This is our chance. We are going to have to seize control of the systems of the world. The Bible told us in Hebrews chapter 11, verse 3, through faith, we understand that the worlds we are framed by the Rhema of God. That means systems can be framed, they can be repaired. Our idea is to repair the systems we see, going in this alignment with the will of God. There are times, the will of God has times, and it's our responsibility, let me put it that way, to ensure that the nations of peoples and the systems are in alignment with the will, purposes, and time of God. This is our faith. This is our moment. This is the day to take over the systems, and we must wake up to it. The days of complaints are over. You see, successful people don't complain, they don't make excuses, they don't blame. The blames are over. The fears are over. The complaints are over. We must take responsibilities. If you don't like what the media is feeding you, it is time to give us a better one because you can. If you don't like what the sources of information are doing, it is time to give us a better source of information because you can. We must take a stand for something. In the days, we read of a young boy who was able to face a giant with a catapult and 5 stones. He didn't say, I come against you with a stone and a catapult. He said, I come against you in the name of the Lord. Today, we must go in the name of the Lord into the systems of this world. The media, the finances, and all of it. Because there is a glory of Jesus Christ that must be seen before the return of Jesus Christ. We have a responsibility. We have the demand of destiny on us. You see, there comes sometimes upon a generation the demand of destiny to be great, to change the story of their kinsmen and to make a difference. It is unto us, our generation, that such demand of destiny has come. We must therefore rise and take responsibility to ensure that the systems of this world, nations of this world, and the people in this world are in alignment with the values of the one who's called us and who sent us. These are not days to support what you don't understand. What you see can no longer be trusted. You need discernment today. This is a time when we have to sit back and realize that the demand of destiny is on us, and we must act fast, mean, and quickly, because we do not have a lot of time to do this thing. But these are things that must be done. So I'm calling every one of you as we round up this first session. We still have another session coming to brace up to the responsibility for change. Put the fear out of the window and take a position for change. It is our day and it is our time. And we must rise up and take responsibility for change today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, if you're watching, in 10 minutes time, the second session will start. It promises to be exciting and have a lineup of really amazing facilitators. But until then, get some water, check your notes again, and I'll see you in 10 minutes time. My name is Quadrant Prince. Bye. Hello, welcome back to the Global Systems Reframe Summit. My name is Reuben Brian, and it's good to have you back here. So, hoping we are joining on Facebook, and if you are in all other platforms, this is a meeting organized by Dr. Brian Reuben and his team across the world. And we finished the first session. It was an amazing, amazing moment with the likes of Dr. Elvis, who was streaming from Ghana, and Dr. Dwan, who streamed from the United States. And after that first session, we were able to come to a conclusion that many leading authorities in different spheres of influence have lost their rights to authority because they compromised. Regardless of how big they still look right now, the moment any leading authority in any sphere of influence, whether it is health, politics, whether it is in governance, whether it's in social media, whether it's in finance, whether it's in fashion, whatever, whoever, the moment they compromise, they have lost the right to that authority. And that leaves a window for those who think they are not there yet to take a chance and make something tangible. And like I said, we are getting out of the era where some of us will just sit back and wait for the next big thing to come and happen to us. We are the next big thing. In fact, we are the big thing and we are not next to happening now. It's why I said they are gone are the days of strategy meetings that just aspire to perspire. This is what strategy meeting that brings your ideas to focus, that brings your personalities to focus and help you strategize so that within the next weeks or months, you have a clear cut direction, a clear path for you to go and make yourself known. I mean, impose that idea on the present levels of ideas that we have. We agreed that all the platforms we have now are not the best. Facebook is not the best. That's it goes for Instagram, Apple, whatever. We didn't have this some years ago and we were fine. So that means there's something better coming up. Be the one in charge something better, and that includes me. So we are coming into the second session. So I'm moving from Dr. Elvis and Dr. Dwan to Mr. Benjamin Kofi Kwanzaa. Mr. Benjamin is a leadership consultant and a public speaker from Ghana. Looking forward to seeing him. And then I'm expecting Mr. Lovemore Jeza. Is an author and an entrepreneur from South Africa. And he also runs a TV station. Yes, I know that because I've been a part of his meeting before. And I'm also excited to introduce Mr. Joseph Helen, who is going to be joining us from Kenya. He's an entrepreneur, he's a musician. I hope I get to hear some lyrics and sounds from Mr. Joseph before the end of this meeting. And he's a gifted teacher of the word. You know, when I was going over the brief of this meeting with Dr. Brian, he said he doesn't want it to be kingdom, you know, just not too religious, but kingdom. So I know that I'm going to have a full-blown enjoyment session. I'm from Nigeria, we like enjoyment. From Yoruba, we call it Owambe, you know. So even though I'm learning, I told Dr. Brian I'm having so much fun. And last but not the least is Mr. Tunde Success Osiedeko. This is my brother from Nigeria. He's an HR professional. You know why I like this particular one? I still work in corporate Nigeria. And I don't own where I work, so that means I have bosses and layers. And HRs are the most annoying set of human beings in every office. Yeah, but you know what? Do you know I put a post on LinkedIn, that should be last year, that is it that HRs go to a special school to learn how to be wicked? Let me not say that loud. Oh my goodness. So he's an HR professional consultant in Nigeria. He doesn't look like mine, so I think he's very nice. Sorry for saying that out loud. Okay, and this particular session, you know, we've discussed the problem in the first session and rounded it up with how can you as a Christian cope with this consistent change, whether it's good or bad. Change in this era is so rapid. So now we are going now to leadership, leadership in uncertain times, and understanding the opportunities, and how to restore the value system. So right now we are moving from the problems to the solutions, and we are under the chairmanship of Dr. Brian Reuben, who has put this together in a very, very strategic, let me use this language, in a very, very strategic format. So even though my keynote speaker for this segment is Mr. Tunde Success, I'm going to pause that for a while and allow Dr. Brian to give us like a 3-minute introduction into what to expect from this segment before I bring on Mr. Tunde. Welcome, Dr. Brian, once again. I hope you had enough rest.
Thank you very much, Pedro, for the amazing work you're doing. Yes, like I said at the close of the last session, this is our time. And we are going to do more than wishing that somebody else will solve the problem. We are going to do more than praying that solution will come from somewhere. We have the ability to cause changes to happen, beginning from where we are. And this meeting gives us, first of all, a perspective of what's really going on. That's the reason why I tried as much as I can to provide some backstage information, even though I also tried to be very, very conservative in some of those comments. And for those that would join in the other meetings that are connected to this, it can be very more specific. So my thing is to encourage everyone at first to be open-minded and to be willing to push the boundaries of possibilities. If we can have faith, the kind of faith that run in the house of David can bring Goliath down. A man who is, and a journey sent him by God cannot be defeated. And when you find purposes and the will of God being compromised, and it doesn't bother you, something is wrong. I am troubled. But a father, I can no longer trust the sources from which I do my research. I am troubled. But a father, I can watch the television and get on social media, and I'm not certain that I'm getting the right information. I am troubled that I'm living in an age of deception when you cannot take people's words for granted. When respected leaders with fancy authorities stand and live press things on TV, and everybody is expected to say, oh, yes, it's true. I can't say, oh, yes, it's true. Then we have a responsibility to set things right. We must realign the systems and the nations and the people of this world. It is a task that must be done. It is whether you are willing to play a part, to play a role in that, but whether it will be done is a done deal. Because in all of that, we are on a journey to ensure that normal remains normal and abnormal remains abnormal. That's what this is about. And like I said, this is our time. We couldn't have hoped or waited for a better opportunity. We are living in this day and in this time with incredible opportunities. And we cannot allow this moment slip out of our hands. I'm going to turn it right back to Pedro to drive us through the rest of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brian. And I think I'm going to start making quote cards for you. You know, be willing to push the boundaries of possibilities. That's a big one there. And we are on a journey to make normal and abnormal. I really hope we can do a massive poster of that and slam on some media houses for apparent reasons. Anyway, like I said, this second segment is about looking for solutions. So I'm going to bring on someone from Nigeria. We call that the 200 million part of God's plan for the world. We are 200 million citizens strong. Please, if I'm not from Nigeria, don't look at me like that. At least on the news, I'm talking to you from a happy perspective, you know. We have something that will help everybody else. That's our numbers. So I'm going to bring in Mr. Tunde Success Osedeko, who is going to tell us, the keynote speaker for this segment is going to tell us something about leadership in uncertain times. And if you understand, let me give you a brief background of where he's coming from. He's coming from Nigeria. And we all know, regardless of the individual efforts we make as citizens or as owners of small, medium, and large companies, the leadership in Africa has remained an issue, not just now, for years. And in uncertain times, it's even now exposing us in a very ridiculous light the more. And what I also discovered now that even the countries we thought had good leadership, Small COVID, everybody's leadership deficiency was was revealed to the entire
Exposed.
world, not just Africa. So please, I can't wait to listen to what Tunde has today. So for the next 20 minutes, please get your pens. Here is mine. Get your writing pads, and if you can record, if you're writing, please let your writing notes be sharp. And if you need a recording of this eventually or a note, you can always reach out via DM from the Facebook page you're watching from. Mr. Tunde, you're welcome on board. Nice to have you.
All right, thank you so much. Please, can you confirm that
I
you
can
can
hear you
me?
at least.
Okay, yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Brian, for this wonderful opportunity to speak at this event. And thanks to everyone who has made this possible. I will be sharing on leading in uncertain times. And I'd like to start with a quadrant that matches uncertainty with preparation. When leaders are prepared and there is certainty, that is a quadrant of comfort. When there is certainty and leaders are prepared, that is a quadrant, for comfort. It means you are in a comfortable place. And we know that for leaders, that is not a good place to be. A comfort zone is not a good place to be. When there is uncertainty and leaders are prepared, that is the quadrant for growth. When there is uncertainty and leaders are prepared, that's the quadrant for growth. We'll be talking about this, much later. But when you hear the title, when you hear conversation around leading in an uncertain time, what that means is that it's an exciting time to lead in an uncertain time. It's an exciting time to lead in an uncertain time, because when there is uncertainty and leaders are prepared, that's a quadrant for growth. Now, when there is certainty and leaders are unprepared, when there is certainty and leaders are unprepared, that is a quadrant for prodigality. That's a quadrant for waste. You're wasting the moment when there is certainty and leaders are unprepared. And finally, the final quadrant is when there is uncertainty and leaders are unprepared. That is the crisis quadrant. When there is uncertainty and leaders are unprepared, that is the quadrant for crisis. And most leaders are having a tough time because they are not prepared, for this uncertainty. My second point is that leadership is about influence. And much of the things that we've spoken about in the fourth section has to do with what leaders should be doing. Leadership is about influence. And influence is not just by mouth. Influence is not just by speaking. Influence is about ownership. Influence is about having platforms. Influence is, if your landlord says you can't park in a certain place, what it means is that you can't park in that place, because influence is about ownership of platforms. And that's the reason why those who own platforms, can dictate how their platforms should be used. Those who own Google, those who own Facebook, those who own YouTube, because they own this platform, they can control the platform, they can influence people through the use of their platforms. All right. There are many things we can liken the job of a leader to. The first is some people consider leaders or some people use the idea of a shepherd to describe what leadership is about. Some people use the idea of a CEO to describe what leadership is about. But by my best example of what a leader or what leadership is about is the job of a pilot. Is the job of a pilot. That's my best example of what leadership is about. I know when a pilot takes a plane, from Lagos to Dubai, most of the time it is said that the job of that pilot is to help the plane, is to steady the plane, because most of the time the plane will go out of course And so the responsibility of a pilot is to make sure that course correction is happening on a regular basis if he wants to end up at his or destination. Okay. And the reason why this is important is because you can't fly from one point to another point without having an end in mind. You can't fly from one point to another point without having a destination in mind. And therefore, the greatest job of a leader is to envision the future. The greatest job of a leader is to envision the future. And the design of the future is that, future comes with uncertainty. Future comes with uncertainty. The future comes with uncertainty. The future must never be a surprise to great leaders. The future must never be a surprise to great leaders. The reason why a lot of people are not prepared for what is going on today is because they were unprepared. It's because they couldn't see, they couldn't tell, they couldn't envision that 2020 is going to be the way it is. And the truth is, anyone can make it through a day. You can make it through 1 week. You can make it through 1 month. You can make it through 1 quarter. But it's tough to make it through 3 years and 5 years without great leadership. So the responsibility of leaders, or the responsibility of leadership, is to envision the future. And like I said, the future should never be a surprise to leadership. Now, the point of that is, when we talk about leading in uncertain times, we're simply saying, what we're simply saying is that leaders must lead, because leading is envisioning the future, and the future comes with uncertainty. Right? That's what we're trying to say. There are 3 ways you can tell the future. There are 3 ways you can envision the future. The first is through pattern. If you look at what has happened in the past, if something happens every 10 years, then you can predict that another 10 years this will happen. If something happens every 20 years, you can predict that this will happen. So you can look at the past and draw a line to say, if things have happened this way, the likelihood is that it will happen again, right? So one of the ways people envision the future is through pattern. The second way people envision the future is through trend. What is going on? What is going on right now? What is the general happenings, right now? And the third way people can envision the future is through prophecy, inspired revelation of the future. The scripture says, "For surely the sovereign Lord will do nothing without revealing his plan to his servant, the prophet." My point is that there's a way the future can be envisioned. And when you envision the future, you know that it comes with uncertainty. And therefore, leaders are not caught unawares by uncertainty. Leading in a time of uncertainty is a natural habitat for leaders. Whatever is happening in 2020, if we missed it, we need to go back and ask the question, why didn't we see it? Because for leaders, it should never have been a surprise. There are many things that define what is going on right now. And whatever is happening right now, certain element of it has been predicted. And so if this is catching leaders by surprise, it means that such a leader is not up to date. Before 2020, there were many materials that says that the future is digital. The pandemic, certain people have said something about this pandemic before it showed up. So it should not have been a surprise to some people. It could have been a surprise to many people, or for certain people, it should not have been a surprise. So leading in an uncertain time for a great leader should never be a surprise, should be a natural habitat. Now, when the future happens and there is uncertainty, what must leaders do? Leaders lead within the context of their people. And so when there is uncertainty, one of the things that happen is that people live in fear. People live in fear. What's going to happen? There is COVID now. What's going to happen to my job? What's going to happen to my business? Can I make it through another month? What's happening to my loved ones who are sick? People are living in fear. When there is uncertainty, people are unsure. They're unsure of themselves, unsure of their gifts, unsure of many things. When there is uncertainty, people have questions, they are confused. So leading in an uncertain time, even though it shouldn't be a surprise for a leader, but because leaders lead within the context of the people that follow them, a leader must therefore pay attention to these three impacts of uncertainty on their people. The first being fear, the second being not being sure, and the third being confusion. A leader must help people with perspective. Not many people can make sense of what is going on, but it is the job of a leader to help people with perspective, to help people make sense of what is going on. You know, I believe that whatever we see, anything physical, there's always something that controls anything physical that cannot be seen. The unseen controls the seen. So while people are seeing things happening, I believe that nothing just happens. And therefore, leaders help people to tie the stitches together to make sense of what is going on. The second responsibility of leadership, or how to lead in a certain time, is to, when people are unsure, is for leaders to also be vulnerable. So if a leader did not catch it before it happened, a leader should be able to say, oh, I didn't catch it. I need to figure out why I didn't catch it. This is how I feel. And the third thing that a leader must do is to help people find their way, to let people know that even though this is happening now, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So ladies and gentlemen, in a nutshell, that is how you lead in an uncertain time. You lead in an uncertain time by recognizing that it should be your natural habitat, because leaders should see the future before it happens. You lead by helping to help people make sense of what is going on. We lead by providing perspective, and we lead by giving people hope that after this rain, there is light at the end of the tunnel. Thank you very much for listening. God bless you.
Okay, I was going to say let's clap if I remember that it's an online meeting. It was a physical meeting. I would have told the audience to jam your hands together for Mr. today. Oh my goodness, that was awesome. Like, awesome. I mean, I don't need to do a summary. He began it and summarized it very nicely, which is really nice. I mean, I don't doubt that he's an HR, probably has all these usual Monday briefings or Friday briefings. So he's used to telling grumpy workers, good workers, bringing them all to the same perspective. And Mr. Tunde, that was a good one. And I don't hype people, but I kind of wish at our next African Union meeting, if our presidents will allow, you know, people who are actually on the forefront of what I define as governance. That's what happens on our streets, not what happens in the hollow chambers of all the presidential palaces of the world. Come and talk to them like this. Because apparently, when I was listening to how you were describing the quadrant, for a lot of countries, especially in the developing part, they were in the uncertainty and not prepared. So we had a major crisis, and it would take a miracle for a lot of economies to come out. So please, if you're just joining us, this is Global Systems Reframe Summit, the second session, and under the chairmanship of Dr. Brian Reuben, I have Mr. Tunde Success, who just delivered a very amazing keynote address. I have Mr. Joseph Helen from Kenya, Mr. Lovemore Jeza, and Mr. Benjamin Kofi. And I'm Pedro Prince. And please, for more materials on everything you're going to hear today, the place to go is Dr. Brian's page. Send a DM. They typically answer in 1 minute. I'm a living witness to that. Typically answer in 1 minute. So a DM will answer on your questions, especially on how to access all our speakers to after this meeting. So not to drag on. The next segment, we just finished talking on leadership in uncertain times. So we are going into discussion now. And the major topic for this segment is understanding the opportunities available today to restore value-based system. The key word here being restoring value systems that are value-based. So before I bring on our next speaker, Mr. Benjamin, I'd like Dr. Brian to just throw a little light, just a little light on what it means to restore value-based systems, because thank God it's a kingdom meeting. Yeah, okay, it's a meeting filled with people who are members of the kingdom of Christ. And the major talk now, Jesus is coming soon. He's coming soon. He can come as we are speaking now. He can come in 100 years' time. He can come tomorrow. But even right now, what can we start doing? He said, occupy till I come. What can we start doing? So we don't just sit back and say they can do what they want. Jesus will soon come. So Dr. Brian is going to tell us in the next few minutes on how understand the opportunities available to us today on how to restore value-based system. Dr. Brian, you're on.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I want to thank Mr. Tunde Success for the amazing, thank you. And I want to thank all of us who are here. Yes, it is imperative that we take responsibility for restoring the values we can attest for. Okay? Because you see, values are at the foundation of building anything that is worth building. And when we miss it, it becomes a problem. I said earlier that there are certain things which are not just consistent with human nature. And we cannot allow systems that are driven with values not consistent with the right thing to be imposed on everybody else. For example, when people who share a different perspective from certain people are blacklisted from platforms, that is something that should give everybody, give everybody, get everybody's attention, and something we must definitely do something about. Because when you say Jesus is coming soon, and that's true, he's definitely coming soon. But you see, Jesus is coming for a church without spots, without wrinkles, church that is walking in glory. And until he comes, we are going to have to occupy here and be very effective. There is something that is very important. Jesus said to be gentle as dove and be wise as serpents. One thing you find about the dove is that the dove is purity. And that really represents values. The dove is pure, And that represents that when you put all of the values together, values like love, values like truth, values like sincerity, you arrive at purity. You arrive at rightness. And Jesus said to have strong value orientation. And of course, he said to be wise as serpents. And one thing about the serpent, you find the serpent is very strategic. If a serpent enters into an environment, it has the ability to sense what the environment looks like. If it's a lousy environment, there's no food, there is danger, the serpent knows how to behave itself. That's being strategic. And we must combine our willingness to ensure our responsibility to see that we have systems where people can experience the kind of freedom that God talks about. See, freedom is a good thing, but freedom can be misunderstood, and it can also be taken completely out of context. Okay? And when that happens, things go wrong. So we have an opportunity today to restore value-based leadership, value-based systems. Here's why I say that. In the first session, I cited the example of Kodak. that wanted to stand on the way of the digital camera because it threatened their advantage and how they were taking advantage. We find similar things happening today when certain giants are making certain decisions to keep the world and everybody in it on the path they want everybody to journey along. And the moment such happens, they have opened themselves up for bankruptcy. That provides for us a window of opportunity to build systems that actually extend freedom in the right and strictest sense of it to everybody. So we have the calling of destiny on all of us to take that responsibility. I'm aware that the problem always is how to go about it. And I think that's part of the reason for the Global System Reform Project, which of course this summit is just a part of it. Because through that we are able to provide the tools, the resources, and all that is needed for somebody to actually take on the responsibility of restoring value-based leadership, building value-based systems, and be effective at it, so that people don't just pray and hope that things change. So through the discussion here today, I believe that we are all going to become pretty equipped and first of all gain the right perspective and begin to look in the direction of restoring values rather than hoping that somebody does it or tagging them new normal. You know, there are a few things that are just beautiful. Okay, so when the way things have been done is turned upside down and it's called new normal, and we gladly talk about how it is the new normal for human beings to cover their face and their mouth because of a pandemic. We need to look at some of these things very seriously and be willing to challenge what is not right. We are too big as God's people to allow whatever anybody feels like be imposed on us because they have control of systems. We are going to have to build better systems. And I'm calling and challenging on everybody who can hear me to rise up to the possibilities we have, to the window of opportunity that we have today. Great things have started because people give attention. Daniel told Nebuchadnezzar, you were on your bed and the thoughts of things to come came to your heart. I love the way Stephen translation in NIV puts it. He said, as you lay on your bed, the thoughts of the future came to your heart and the revealer of secrets brought you words. When you give attention, directions, and all the resources that are required comes your way. So we have to first of all recognize that some of the things we call new normal are not normal at all. It is not normal to put a man in ladies' room. It is not normal. We must stand up against such things, irrespective of whoever supports that or does not support that. Is their responsibility and a calling we must rise up against. So I'm going to take this back again to Pedro to direct the rest of the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brian. Now, because that gave us a good perspective on what to expect and what we should limit the scope of the discussion on. Okay, if you're just joining us, this is the Global System Reform Summit, and we are trying to ensure that we get our heads back in the game, like basketballers would say in high school movies. You know, gone are the days that we just sit back in our awesome churches or companies, and as long as we have what to eat, where to wear, and money to fly, we are good to go. These are the days that we bring in the God essence, you know, the God essence into everything that we have to do and become a force to reckon with at least one more time before the final movement of everybody upstairs. Like I wish to tell myself, I said upstairs. Okay, so right now, without wasting much of a time, I want to ask a very good question, because now we've heard it. Dr. Brian has told us that we should start building value-based systems, okay? We should not be having what we call new normal. There's normal and there's abnormal, end of discussion. But I want to ask a question, and this question goes to Mr. Benjamin Kofi. Should global system abuse be challenged? Let me just try to give you a little insight. My daytime job is education. I teach, literally, I'm a teacher. I teach math and physics. And that's my day job for now. Very soon I'm hoping I'll find something else, but that's my passion. No, sorry, no, okay, I'm not saying that from the money aspect, I'm just saying bigger things are here. But let's be real now. It's 8 o'clock to 2 p.m. Nigerian time. I'm in a classroom, literally. And because of the way the world is, everybody has gone global. I discovered that there are some forms I want to apply for some programs, exchange and all that with other educationists across the world. If I don't reiterate that I agree to some certain values and mindsets, I'm not going to get it. Regardless of where you're coming from, you have to, I'm not going to say it on here, but you have to agree to this, to that, to some abnormal value systems. You have to be able to prove that you can accommodate it before they even allow you to participate in such programs. If not, you're not going to join. And I'm talking about big names and corporations here. I'm talking about international organizations. If you want to remain local, fine. But if you want to be international, there are some boundaries you need to break in your mind. And assume is normal. So at least they will allow you. So that's I want to ask. Left to me, sometimes it's an abuse on my personality, but what do I do? You know, I want to be an international educationist, so I don't intend to sit in one place for too long. And the only way is to break out of the norm. So now, at what point? At what point can someone like me challenge the global abuse system? Mr. Benjamin, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Peju. You're doing an amazing job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Brian Reuben. I appreciate this great. I appreciate the opportunity. So I'm laughing because I'm very much excited. Mm-hmm. And I love the briefing that you gave about values. John Maxwell gave this quote. He said, "Your values are the soul of your leadership, and they drive your behavior." It means that if we put our values aside, we hurt our leadership. And when you hurt your leadership, you cannot lead. If you cannot lead, you cannot influence. Tunde just mentioned that leadership is about influence. Now, I engage with a couple of people, and in my engagement and interactions, when I come up, or when the issue of global systems come up, people seem to get confused. They seem to have a limited understanding of what we mean by global systems. And I do my best to explain to them that when we talk about global systems, we're looking at environmental systems, we're looking at the political system, the legal system, financial system, economic system, and we make the world, which means that if there's any abuse in the system, it affects everyone. It affects the people, it affects the nation. Can you confirm you can hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, I can.
I think you lost me, right?
You're back.
Okay.
You're back.
So all these systems that I've mentioned help to make or unmake the world. If there's any abuse in the system, whether the political system, environmental, financial system, whatever the system, if there's any abuse, it has therein. We cannot say that because it is not affecting us in our part of the world, we'll not bother about it. We should be concerned. At least COVID-19 has taught us very important lessons. So here is why I strongly believe that we should be in a position to challenge global system abuse. Number one, I strongly believe that it is a God-given responsibility to challenge any system abuse. Why do I say that? I brought my best companion with me, my Bible, and I like to read a passage from Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 10. Why we should challenge the system, or there's an abuse in the system, why we should challenge. So it says, see, I have this day set you over the nations and over the kingdoms to root out and to pull down, to destroy and to throw down, to build and to plant. God has charged us with the responsibility to challenge any system abuse. Whatever the Father has not planted, Jesus said, must be uprooted. You uproot and then plant good values. Daniel found himself in a strange land, in the kingdom of Babylon. The environment, the system, wanted him to compromise on his values. What does the Bible say? It says Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. So God expects us to rise up and challenge any system abuse. The second reason in system abuse is the fact that we owe it to our own conscience and to the generations yet unborn. Mordecai told Esther, if you keep quiet at this time, deliverance will come from another source. But you and your father's house will be destroyed. In any case, who knows whether you are in the kingdom for such a time as this? So all the presentations that have gone on before from Dr. Brian and the rest, they did not mince words by saying we live in special times. This is our opportunity. If Esther was able to do it, we can do it. If David was able to serve his generation, we can serve our generation. Where is Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, who would take the spear in his hand and deal with the immorality that is going on in the land? We need to rise up and challenge any system abuse. Thank you.
That was a good one, Mr. Benjamin. Thank you very much. The one that's sticking to my mind right now is it's a God-given ability. I mean, that phrase alone, it's not something just hear and leave. You need to go over it till it expands in your mind. Dr. Brian.
It's not just, thanks, Mr. Benjamin, it is not just an ability, it's a responsibility. You see, the world in all of its trouble keeps moving forward. But it only moves forward when people take a stand against evil. When you see things going wrong, I say many times it seems like if you don't go with the flow, you're going to miss something. No, that's a chance to be great. That's a chance to set a different mark. That's a chance to demonstrate something different. Because you cannot let a system that is ungodly, see, every system that exists was designed by some people, a group of people. And usually it is to the intent that it will serve their purpose or the purpose of whoever sent them. So if already there is a system abuse, that means that a good system has been abused. It's been manipulated. And it must be redesigned. It's not an ability. We have an ability that we must leverage to carry out a responsibility. It is wrong to see things going wrong. It's wrong. I love what he talked about Daniel. Daniel refused to compromise his values, even though there seemed to be an advantage. So I don't sign on for some kind of opportunity in exchange for compromising my value. Because the right thing is for me to take a stand and challenge the so-called giant corporation. And like a David, you can bring them down. There has to be that kind of conviction within us, that there is somebody who is in us, in whose name we go. And as a result of that, when we find situations and systems not consistent with his will and purpose, it's a responsibility. It's a responsibility to take action and not compromise. The United States ambassador to Ghana, okay, the day he fails to represent the interests of the United States and begins to compromise because of some gains offered him by anybody in Ghana, he's lost the authority to be the ambassador. He's lost the moral responsibility to be. So we must understand that we are standing in somebody's name. And we cannot allow our responsibility to just stay there. Meanwhile, we have the ability. So it's not just an ability, it is a responsibility. And if you don't do that, the implication is that soon enough you fade away with those, because whatever is not planted, like he pointed out, will be uprooted. Someday the system you refuse to challenge will be uprooted and you will go with the system. So it's a responsibility, not just an ability. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Brian. Thank you. I'm going to have to reframe that though. If I'm quoting Mr. Benjamin correctly, he said it's your God-given right? Not just ability. It's your God. Am I quoting you directly, Mr. Benjamin? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. Anyway, so while we get back to
he said responsibility.
Okay, I need to be sure because of those who are just
a God-given responsibility.
No, that's Dr. Brian. That's Dr. Brian's zone. I was trying to quote Mr. Benjamin correctly. Okay, so we're still very much on, even though we are exhausting at time. Okay, now Dr. Brian kind of touched on it. He just said it in passing. But now I want Mr. Joseph Helen to dwell on this next topic. By the way, if you're just joining on, Mr. Joseph Helen is an entrepreneur, is a musician, and is a gifted teacher of the word, and is streaming live from Kenya. So he's going to, for a while now, the way we have some giant corporations. And apparently, if you check very carefully, all the giant corporations, none of them were shut down. None during the pandemic, regardless of what they were doing, whether they were online or offline. There was a way that money left the hands of a lot of people back into their hands. They weren't shut down, regardless of what they were selling, whether they were social media, whether they were marketers, whether they were online stores, whether they were physical stores. Even in Nigeria, I was amazed. Okay, good. Mr. Benjamin, I got that now. God-given responsibility, good. I was amazed that while all of us were on lockdown, they gave some people passes to open their companies. They kept it open. So, and the way things are going, the giant corporations keep buying up the smaller ones, because I noticed a trend, especially from African startups. The typical African will build up the company to a good place, and then somebody will fly in from somewhere and buy up the company, and then we will be celebrating, sold it for 100 billion naira. And I'll be thinking, that guy that came all the way from US or UK or Germany to buy up your application, he knows what he's doing. So right now, it's no longer business associated with the giant corporations. They're not only expanding, they are buying up. At this point, do you think they can be challenged? Mr. Joseph, over to you.
Thank you very much. So happy to join together with you. Dr. Brandt, what an amazing work that you've done so far in putting this together. And for you, Pedro Prince, great work moderating us and bringing order into this system. I really would like to salute to the success. And Benjamin, an amazing group of people with such a thesaurus of wisdom. I'm really, really so happy to join together with you. All right, we have all these huge corporations that are ruling the world, and these corporations were left unscathed, even in the face of the lockdown. And when everybody was either losing, they were gaining. Well, it's very simple. We have to look at what systems are. A system is an instrument, a tool that's used to do certain things, and it combines artifacts or things that have been devised or made. And these things are designed for a specific purpose. They have to correlate and they have to interact. Apart from interacting, they have to coherently work towards a certain value. Now, the problem we've had in the world today was mentioned by Jesus in one of his teachings. He said that the children of the world in their age are wiser than the children of the kingdom of God. For that reason, you notice that the huge corporations that are not necessarily associated with the church continued being more and more successful, making money and getting more and more powerful. The reason being is that they had a coherent system in place. There is something they knew that the church did not know. There's something they knew that the children of the kingdom of God did not know. And that is operating systems that work. And these systems have worked in such a way that now they're buying off the systems that did not work. So these people were prepared. There was preparation within their coherent system. Interact, and systems that are correlated, and systems that seamlessly move towards an assemblage. For example, the church is an assembly, so it's a system. But the system of the church, as we know it today, is dependent on begging for money, begging for seed, begging for funds and all that. Yet the world system is a system that creates. They not only innovate, they re-innovate, and then they create and recreate. For that reason, the church still must learn from the world. Otherwise, the church is still in danger, because the value systems of the world are tried and tested and challenged. And that's the reason why, if you look at Facebook, for example, more often than not, the top leadership of Facebook is subjected to a rigorous questioning by the Senate. If you look at the top corporations right now, are under microscopic observation, something that's not yet happening in the church. For that reason, even though we can challenge the big corporations, we still have an uphill task, because their systems run and their systems work. Now, I'm going to come to a certain aspect of what I'd like to bring forth. The world right now is under very strong influence, or should I say satanic influence. But we've got to also appreciate that Satan, as we know him, or Lucifer, as he was originally called, is an organized being. He has systems that work. He has his principalities and he has his powers, he has his rulers, he has his spiritual wickedness in high. In fact, if you look at John 14, verse 30, Jesus said, "The king of the world is coming, but his system has nothing in me." So it means Jesus acknowledged that Satan was a king. Now, a king is somebody who is in charge of a kingdom, and a kingdom is a system that operates. It has its budgetary system, it has its defense system, it has everything that any functional system must have. So Jesus acknowledged Lucifer as a king of the earth and a king whose system worked. But Jesus said, he has nothing in me, because Jesus had a set of information or set of truths that were contrary to the system of the world. Now, Jesus himself also said that mammon is unrighteous, money that helps the system run. The wheels upon which the systems of the world is finances, money. And Jesus said it was unrighteous, that it was something that the world understood better than the church. So inasmuch as we can rise as the children of the kingdom of God with authority to challenge this system, we must put our houses in order first, so that our systems are creative, so that our systems can create money, so that our systems can be powerful, because without money, of course, you have no voice. You remember the story of a gentleman called Solomon, and he said that a poor person, even if they have wisdom, their wisdom is not heard. So we have the church system, a system that begs mostly, a system that has wisdom, the wisdom of God, which is the principal thing. But this system doesn't have money. And if it does, it is money that is not sustainable because it comes in and goes, comes in and goes. So for us to challenge the big corporations and for us to put them on check and for us to take over, we have to get onto entrepreneurship as the children of God. We have to get into a system that makes money. We have to get ideas, turn those ideas into products and turn those products, into things that people can use and then market, of course, brand them and market them, and then sustain that system so that the church as it is today can make some money for itself. Then the church can have a voice, and then the church can take over communication. Because if you notice, by the way, all the huge corporations right now that are running the world have something to do with IT and communication. You remember, Lucifer is called the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that works in the children of disobedience, the power of the air, media. Okay, so if we were to take over communication, as it were, and if we were to have a voice in communication, as it were, and that voice is financially based, that means people must learn entrepreneurship. They must learn how to solve problems in replicable and sustainable ways and in ways that make money. Because again, you remember Jesus said, occupy until I return. Do business until I return. Do business until I return. Yeah. So if we can do that as the church, then we'll have a voice. And this voice will enable us not only to call out the misdeeds of the systems that we have right now of the huge corporations, but we can compete against them favorably and beat them in the system and then communicate our values as they are established in the Word of God. I think that's what I can say for now.
You got me glued to my TV, so my laptop screen, sorry, Mr. Joseph. That was a beautiful submission. And even though we don't really like to admit it, you are very correct that the church system is, I reframed it to beg based, where the money just comes in and go out. And I've not been to Kenya before, but even the kind of businesses that the churches like to branch out into in Nigeria, it's still beg-based. They like to build things like schools. They like to build things like maybe water factories or Max restaurant. And I keep thinking, in a church of 100,000 people, for example, one person doesn't have any other idea that can break into the world of technology, the world of media, the world of fashion, and the church can fund without biases. But let me say we are getting there, and hopefully everybody who is listening here, they're not just listening to fill up the numbers on our major platforms, but they're listening to go back, internalize, and produce something. I'm looking forward to this particular sitting arrangement, not those on the screen, but me and those who are listening. In 3 months, we are seeing the effects of all these things. So, by the way, Dr. Brian, you want to add to that for just because I know this is like a natural forte, even if it's 2 minutes, but even though you call church system beg-based, I'm a church girl, so he's still eating me up a little bit, but I know he's very correct. Because like you said, the word system is organized. It's why we have our instrumentalists go and play in clubs and get money and come back to church on Sunday and play for free.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
if I may just interject, Pedro, I beg your pardon, if I may just interject a little bit.
It's okay.
You talked about a church of 100,000 people.
Yes.
Now, if you look at social media as it is right now, what is being monetized in social media is what they call traffic. A number of people following something that you do. And where there are people, marketers usually are curious. And where there are people, industrialists and people who manufacture are curious. And if you can be in charge of 100,000 people, give that to somebody in the world and then create millions of dollars. You give that to a preacher and it is, hey, next Sunday, can you bring your tithe? Can you bring your offering? There's nothing wrong with tithes and offerings, but we need to move on to a higher level right now. And the higher level is creativity. monetize the numbers. I know there's a fear in the church that you're not supposed to commercialize the gospel. We are not supposed to merchandise the gospel, and that's fine. But the numbers of the people that meet every Sunday, I'm telling you, that in itself is a congregation of brains, congregation of talents, of skills, of abilities, that if put under proper systems of leadership, can create sufficient amounts of money that 100,000 group of people can change the world given a period of time.
Yes. I'm just having goose pimples all over. Dr. Brian, please, do you have something to say after that?
Thank you, Apostle.
Honestly, that was...
Thank you for having me.
Everything you said is true.
Yes.
You know, Harvard University, if you look at their old logo, they have a new logo now. I don't remember the dates that logo changed. You'll find this inscription on that logo. What's that again? Veritas Christus et Ecclesia. It means the truth for Christ and the church.
Wow.
So the school was started, it began by a gentleman called Reverend Harvard. Isn't it interesting that Harvard is one of the most trusted names that has some of the best organized systems in the world? But it was a reason a gentleman called Reverend Harvard. What we now see, now that logo has changed. What you now find in that inscription, what you now say is the truth, right? See, it's not changed to the truth. And now this problem we have with this truth right now is that we now live in a time they said it is a post-truth world. It's a post-truth world. And what it means is that Mr. Lovemore Jesus' truth could be different, and I should leave him alone with his truth. And I have my truth, and you want to leave me alone to believe that it's okay to elect a dog as the mayor of my county. You get what I'm talking about? That is the truth that you believe for me. And you want to leave me to believe that it is okay for men to choose to turn to women and women becomes men. Is the truth also? Well, that is not the question of the truth. So we found systems that were set up by people. Now, the church is not a number about number, it's about anybody whom Christ works. They're about number. When the Ethiopian eunuch went to Ethiopia, he was the only person who knew God, but he was a church in Ethiopia. So when we talk about the church, it's about you who has God living in you. So we have people, we have well-organized systems that have been set up by the church, but eventually hijacked. That is the point. Systems can be hijacked. Hijacked systems can be retrieved.
Yes.
Book of Isaiah chapter 9 says, the battle of every warrior is with confused noise. It's talking about chaos. That's why I like the chaos. Because that's an amazing opportunity to take over systems and reframe systems. We need to understand this. We have the ability. We are organized. The trouble is that we've not been given that perspective. Many of us in the church don't even know we're supposed to do that. Facebook bought WhatsApp some years ago for about 18 or something $billion. A lot of money. They didn't create WhatsApp, they bought it. Question is, why didn't the question buy it? WhatsApp had the system organized. Facebook bought Instagram, why didn't the Christian buy Instagram? Facebook talked about the brethren in church who were setting up schools because they saw their brother set it up. You know, something very important. So now, this is very wonderful because you see, Book of Colossians, the Bible says there are only three sources of ideas. You have ideas that come from Christ, whom he said in him dwell all the fullness of Sophia and Gnosis. Then he said there are ideas that come from the principalities of this world. And then he talks about the traditions of men. Well, ideas that come from traditions of men only happen when I see Mr. Success doing something amazing with his workbook magazine, and I decide to start my own. Maybe I call it Game Book, whatever. all right, and I start copying his strategy, and that doesn't go very far. Or when I began a particular system, and other people copy my system and popularize my system and make it look like that is the only way it can be done. That is ideas given by the traditional community. There are also ideas that come from Satan, all right? And these ideas come well packaged, well arranged with the intent of keeping men in darkness and in limitation. But as a church, we need to understand what the point I want to bring is that we need to take responsibility and understand that it begins with giving focus. When we recognize that we have the responsibility, everything flows along. We've got all we require to do that. It's a success is an amazing job. That's why I said in my article. So if you look at workbooks.com, find lots of amazing work is doing quite well. That is good company. That is how to respond. Systems are built by people, and we can build the systems. We can restrict that systems. For example, here you can decide right now she can decide right now to buy Facebook, even as Facebook faces 40-something states challenging them in court and seeking their splits. You can decide to buy that. After all, they bought some companies just some years ago. But that is about a perspective about how to think. It's about refusing to think at the levels of mediocrity. It's about accepting that you can do big things that can shape the world. It is about realizing that CNN began one day and being willing to outpace the system. You see, the systems we are talking about, I am all about outpacing systems. I used to talk about outcompeting rivals until I realized that was mediocrity. I think about outpacing systems that even made the rivals, even give the so-called rivals the opportunity to compete. I can outpace the whole system and command leadership in the market. That is how I think. So my thing is, what is the education system looking like right now? I don't care who are the leaders of the education system, but if I can make their model obsolete, I'll take over. That's how they think. Thinking about making systems that are not helping us obsolete through acts of innovation and creativity, which every one of us is filled with the ability to do that. Now, this is my solution to you. For us to elevate our perspective and realize that not only can we build amazing systems, we need to take over some hijacked systems. Very important.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Brian. I can feel the passion coming out from under Dr. Brian's innards right now, and I know it's going to produce a result. Not just one, results. Okay, so next I'm bringing on Mr. Lovemore Jeza. Mr. Lovemore Jeza is an author and is an entrepreneur and is from South Africa and is wearing my favorite color, which is blue, and is doing amazing things in the world of media. I mean, I hope they've not started sanctioning that beautiful TV station, because I know what these big boys can do, but I know you got this. And I've listened to him, I think, twice. And I can tell you he's filled like this is the list like a truck, endless loads of God-given wisdom. But for this evening, he's going to be explaining to us in a few minutes, especially for someone like him that is now trying to break out of the typical religious norm. How does the state of the world present opportunities for system reframe? We're talking about reframing, we're talking about replacing trying to go back to the God kind of order. So how does the present state of the world present opportunities for system reframe? Thank you, Mr. Lovemore.
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. And thank you also to Dr. Reuben and each and every one of us who is on this panel. It's always nice to speak, with any platform that Dr. Reuben sets up, because you know that you're going to hear some mind-blowing information, revelation, wisdom. There's just an unusual wealth that just oozes out of each and everyone. And I am so much intrigued, and I'm so happy to be a part of what is happening there today. And based on your question, I just want to say that the system right now, it allows us as the kingdom to release hunters and babies. It allows us to release hunters and babies. So what do I mean when I talking about releasing hunters and babies? You see, the book of Proverbs, chapter number 12, verse 27, says, "A lazy man does not catch and roast his prey, but the precious possession of a wise man is diligence, because he recognizes opportunities and seizes them." I'm reading from the Amplified Bible. So right now, when the world is saying there's a casting down, because we belong to the light, we say there is a lifting up. But what we need then to be able to understand is that we need to be like a David in this time and in this season. Why? Because David understood that there is an opportunity, and wherever there's an opportunity, there is a reward. And he looked at the giant that was there, and he saw that if I can ask the right questions and be able to take down this giant, there's definitely something that's going to change my life and my family, and also even generations to come. So he went and he asked the right question. So I strongly believe that right now the reason why COVID-19 looks like a giant, it is because it's looking for those who are hunters. It's looking for those who are tired of just taking care of the sheep and being at the backside. You know, it's an opportunity where those who understand that they carry something on the inside of them, they can ask the right question and be able to get rewards. He asked, what shall be given? What shall happen to the person who's going to take down this giant? What is going to happen to a person who develops a system in the midst of COVID that can bring forth good results in the world? This is the right opportunity, you know, that has been said for each and everyone, especially for us who are in the kingdom. We need to be able to understand that, especially for those who are leaders, that the world right now, they don't know what to do. And they are waiting for us to be able, you know, to give leadership. And he who takes or gives, you know, leadership, takes the bull by the horns, becomes the one who takes the spoils home. So I strongly believe that right now the world is on sale. That's what I would say. The world is on sale. It's for sale. And the one who's willing to fight, the one who's willing to hunt. You know, where I read there, it said that, you know, the lazy man does not catch, and also he does not roast his prey. So even for those who are listening to me, the question then is, when everyone is looking at what's happening in the pandemic, as everyone shut in the door, the question is, why are we lazy as kingdom people, as ambassadors, as people who know that we are responsible as the light to shine in darkness? Why are we not catching some things? Why are we not roasting? Because you see, there is something here that we need to be able to understand. It says the lazy man does not catch, and also he does not roast. So there are people who are supposed right now to be standing up, and they are not standing up. But there are also those who are saying, in the midst of this pandemic, yes, I was doing this, but the problem was they were only catching, but they were not trusting. So what do I mean? Let me give an example. I strongly believe that right now, the situation that we have right now, it's allowing those that used, for example, just to catch, you know, gold, for example, or diamonds. They would go and dig out and catch, right, and find diamonds and beat the gold. But the problem is they were not roasting it. So what were they doing? They were shipping everything overseas. And then when it goes there, what's going to happen? It is going to to be roasted. They put it in the fire, they purify it, and when that gold comes back, for example, to Africa, you're going to discover that most people are not even able to find one bar of gold, be it in their houses, yet they are the very first people who were able to catch it. So now, I strongly believe that for those who are in the marketplace, for those who are in media, for those who are doing, things, and they're wondering, why is it all the borders were closed? God allowed all the borders to be closed so that your mentality can shift, so that you can move from catching something and giving other people to roast. Because when you catch what you catch and you roast it, what happens? The value of that product begins to increase. So just imagine with all the wealth that we have in Africa, if all of us were able, be it to catch and roast, how much of money are we talking about? This is so much wealth that we are able, be it to disrupt systems. We are able, be it to bring what God really wants to make sure that it comes, be it on the face of the earth, and be able to do great things. So that's what I was talking about when I was saying there's hunters. So there are people that need to be able to understand that right now, Goliath is standing upon families, upon ministries, upon leaders of in the marketplace, everywhere. There's giants wherever you go. Big corporations are also there. They're just standing there. But the question is, where are our hunters? And I strongly believe that right now, God is allowing us, even as we've come bit on this platform, to be able to speak to the hunters, to say, look at what's happening around, right? It's not just a famine that is in the land. This is a famine that is meant to identify the Josephs who are able to interpret the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine, so that they can be able to come closer to the most influential men in the land and be able to distribute grain all around the world. So I strongly believe that right now, what we're seeing a platform that is being set by God for his sons and his daughters to be able to utilize, and also not only to utilize, but also to step in, to master the courage and be able to interpret what needs to be interpreted. Because right now, most people, they don't know what to do. But if you are a Joseph, you know what to do. Why? Because you carry the grace. So I just wanted to say that it's a time where I strongly see this, that the world is for sale. There's properties, there's lands, there's companies for sale. There's a whole lot of systems, like what the previous speaker said, that these guys, they just went and did not start, what's up, but they went and they bought. So there are certain things that we need to be able to buy. There's certain things that we need to be able to start, but there's certain things that we need to be able to develop. The word also speaks to us as people who belong to the kingdom, to say wisdom, gives us, our witty inventions. So there are things that we need to be able to fully understand in this time, in this season, that, for example, there are 4 things that we can do, right, in the face of this pandemic, in when it comes to coming against all these systems. Number 1, we need to be able to build great products and take care of the people that consume them. So when we build great products and we take care of our customers, you're going to realize that it doesn't matter who is there, who's out there, who's doing what they're doing, we're well able to do great and mighty things, right? And then the second thing we need to do is we need to be able to understand that this is the right time to be able to build the best teams which are versatile in skill set and mindset. So we need to be able to come together, bring our great minds together. Just look at what Dr. Reuben just managed to accomplish with this day. These are great minds. These are men and women who are well able to do great things in the kingdom. And I strongly believe that that's why he brought us together, because he knew that what he's looking for is going to be delivered. So for all those who are listening to me, I just want to say that if you have a company, if you're looking to have products, this is the right time. Everything around us is allowing us or setting us up to be able to identify best team. Some of the people that are going to come on your team, they've just been fired from the previous job where they were. So if you go and headhunt for those people, you might come up with an unusual team where you're going to get this versatile skill set and mindset of people that is going to disrupt even the systems that we're seeing now. We need also, number 3, to understand that we create a new market category. When you look at Airbnb, when you look at Uber, these guys, they knew that they wanted to do something. But what did they do? They went into a space where there was minimum resistance, yet at the same time, they were solving a problem that others were not looking at or even thinking about. So right now, when we are shut in, we need to be able to ask, to inquire, to seek. Even as Mr. Tunde said, that we can be able to look at the trends, we can be able to look at the past, but also prophetically, we can be able to see the future and be able to develop products that are well able to change even the system, to be able to start corporations that are able it to change what we are seeing right now on the face of the earth. And number 4, we then need to be able to not be afraid to start small, because startups, they also grow into becoming to become large corporations. And so the same way that David was able to hit Goliath in the beginning and overcome Goliath, all the other enemies that came when he was now ruling, he was well able to also defend and fight. Why? Because you overcame the initial fear to begin. You was able, be it also to move forward and be able, to continually win. So these are some of the things that when I look at what's happening around us in the world right now, we can be able to look at them and also when I look at it, I'm looking at it from a point of we're able to release hunters, but not only hunters. We also need to be able to release the babies. When I'm saying babies, what do I mean? When I look at a scripture, that is Isaiah. Isaiah chapter number 9. It says, "For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulders." So I strongly believe that in as much as we have, or when we raise giants in this 2020, we need to have a generational mindset. We need to think generationally, to say what we have right now in 15 years to come, in 20 years to come, in 30 years to come. What is it that we are going to leave behind? Because believe you me, the child who has been born today, the world that they're going to be in, maybe they might be using products that don't require petrol or diesel. There might be another form of fuel that we'll be using at that time. So we need to not only just look at what's happening now, but we need to be able to prepare our children and our children's children for the future. I was looking at Elon Musk and what they've been able to do and what they're looking at. They're looking at mining now outside of the earth. This is the place where we are going to find ourselves in the next couple of years. But then in 30 years to come, how will the world be looking at? So I strongly believe that what we're seeing right now, it allows us to be able to put things in place, strategies in place, but it also makes us think generationally to say, if fathers and mothers, if corporations are suffering and they are not able, be it to rise up to the occasion in this year, how much more in 30 years will our children's children be able, to compete? If we are not able to compete with men who are on foot, how are we going to be able to rise up and compete with those who are riding on horses? So I still believe that these are some of the things that I would say. And last but not least, I would say, let us unleash the last weapon that we have. And for me, what I would say is, let's release marketplace apostles and prophets. Let's release marketplace apostles and prophets, because they have the grace to establish and they can be able to see the future and bring it closer. So this is what I wanted just to be able to say. And when I say marketplace apostles and prophets, what do I mean? I think Mr. Benjamin is going to love this one. Why? Because there are people that need to be able to understand that their businesses, as long as they continually work the same way they're working, they're not going to be able to survive even after the COVID. They need to partner with other people who have a different grace, who have a better system. And it's mostly apostolic people. So as much as we have seen apostolic people in the church and we have seen prophets be in the church, I strongly believe that the environment right now is allowing us, be it to see the ushering in of apostles in the marketplace and prophets in the marketplace, and those who have the ability to download ideas and concepts and systems and strategies and all those things need to be able to submit them to those who are apostolic, who know how to put the structure and actuate everything that these ones have seen. So those are the things that when I look at what's happening right now, I think that the combination of the apostles and the prophets in the marketplace is about to manifest at a higher level, that after this COVID-19, we are going to see churches begin to arise, the kingdom begin to arise, because once again, we're allowing marketplace apostles and marketplace prophets to come and speak into those who want to disrupt systems and organizations and win over corporations. Because when we have the word of the Lord and we have the government of the Lord on our side, you know, there's nothing that can stop us. The government, we shall be upon our shoulders, and there shall be no end to what we can be able to do and accomplish, be it as responsible kingdom ambassadors on the earth. We are that Adam who was given the garden, and we will not allow the serpent to come in and bite or speak to the Eves that we have around us.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God, please, if you can clap where you are, just clap. You know, the amazing thing is that when I listen to kingdom-minded people, all the time, I keep wondering, are you reading the same Bible? I read my Bible, okay? I speak, but for every meeting I attend, especially strategic ones like this, there's always this difference in the way the gospel is being presented, in the way the word of God is interpreted to suit that exact situation. And I can say that, in fact, I have my notes full here. I can't even do a summary of Mr. Lovemore. 20 minutes of consistent exposition is no play, but I'm very sure that the team would have a subscription ready for whoever needs to hear it again. Thank you very much, very, very much, Mr. Lovemore. I am excited to be a part of this, and I'm hoping that maybe if I saunter to South Africa very soon, I'll likely get a knock at your door to listen more and eat food, please. I'm a foodie, quote and unquote. Thank you very much, and I hope we all got something. So I was trying to bring in Mr. Tunde's success for my last question. Please, if you're here watching, we'll soon round up. It's just that the strategy session, we can't rush it, because these are people who took time out of their busy schedules to come and tell us how they've been doing what they've been doing. So if Mr. Tunde can hear me now, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Can you hear me, Mr. Tunde? Oh, you're so faint. Are you driving? Can you hear me? Oh, okay. I wanted to bring him up to talk, to just answer the last question, because now we spoke extensively on how to take on the present giants that we have, on how to overcome a systemic abuse that apparently we see, and because it felt like we didn't have a choice but conform, we've been able to hear what we can do about it. So if Mr. Tunde's success is back, are you back, Mr. Tunde?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly. Thank you very much.
Can you hear me?
And yes, I can hear you clearly. Can everybody hear you? Just give me a thumbs up if you can. All right. Okay. Thank you very much. So if your video will come on, it's okay. And now your time has reduced to 5 minutes. Sorry about that. Mr. Lovemore's exposition is a whole talk on its own. So my question is, what tools can we deploy in the pursuit of system reframe? Because now we need to be wise, right? And we need to know what tools to pursue if we're going to have a system reframe. Just bullet points in 5 minutes. Thank you very
All
much.
right. Thank you very much, Pedro, for a wonderful job. And thanks to all the panelists. I've learned quite a bit, being here. We're talking about reframe. Reframe is a conceptual idea, is a thing of the mind. It's intangible. And therefore, the tools that we need to change the intangibles must also be intangibles. The first thing that I think is important as a way of summary is that we need to turn on the tap. And when I say we need to turn off the tap, the T there stands for time. We need time. You can't rush what we're trying to do. You can't rush through it. Buying engaging platforms, engaging corporates, engaging the giants, these things will take time. So for anyone who is ready to make a move, for anyone who is ready to move in the direction of reframe, they need to understand that it's not something you can do in the short term. You need time. The idea of strategy is about having a plan. The idea of strategy is about time frame. So timing is important. We need time. The second thing is we need an agenda. We need an agenda. We can all do our things. We can all try and build platform. We can all, try and demonstrate the wisdom of God in our respective endeavors. But what is important is that there must be a common agenda. At the end of the day, what does it translate into? What is the end game? What is the purpose? When people have, and this agenda is more important than resources, even though we need resources. This agenda is more important than money, even though we need money. This agenda is more important than connection, even though we need connection. Because when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse is inevitable. Famous work by late Miles Moreau. So we need an agenda. We need to understand what's the end game, and that's the reason why we're talking, but we're quoting scripture because there's an agenda, you see. And our conversation, the convergence of our conversation cannot only just be the fact that we are quoting the same source. It must go beyond that to having a common agenda, having a shared agenda. And that agenda must be the kingdom, right? That the kingdom of God must be the kingdom of this world must become the kingdom of our God. That's the second thing. The third thing is that we need platform. We need platform. Big organizations will do what they want to do. Rich people will do what they want to do. Influential people will do what they want to do. We must not act as victim because we understand the factor of time and because we understand the importance of having an agenda. We must stay the course, but more importantly, we must also be thinking of platforms. We must not be afraid to start small, but we must think of platforms. It is when you have platforms that you can build influence. It's when you have platforms that you can gain influence. It's when you have platforms that you can buy influence. So we must turn the tap by the factor of time, by the factor of agenda, and by the factor of platform. That would be my summary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to forget that. Time, agenda, platform. Simple. Okay. Okay, so now that we are getting to the end, and I'm going to start from Mr. Benjamin. Kindly give us your word of a conclusion. 1 minute conclusion.
Okay. So my 1 minute conclusion is taken from Isaiah chapter 6, and I'm reading from verse 8. Also, I heard a voice of the Lord saying, "Whom shall I send? And who will go for us?" Then I said, "Here am I, send me." And he said, "Go and tell these people." In every generation, God has always looked for men and women to send. This is our generation. Are you ready to go? God is looking up to us. Can he depend on us? Are we ready to be vessels of honor unto him? Let's think about it. Thank you.
One of my biggest influences in recent times, Dr. Charles will say, we already have the visa, go. That's the visa. Thank you, Mr. Benjamin, for reminding us of that. Okay, I'm going on to Mr. Joseph for his 1 minute conclusion. Sorry, I had to reduce the time from 2 minutes to 1 minute. Mr. Joseph, can we have a conclusion, words of encouragement, nuggets mostly for everybody, us here and those listening, on reframing the systems globally? Can Mr. Joseph hear me? Okay, I hope it's not freezing. All right, Mr. Lovemore, let me have 1 minute. Let me see if I can get Mr. Joseph later. Mr. Lovemore, please, conclusion, 1 minute.
All right, thank you so much. I think for my 1 minute conclusion, I would say build the ark. Build the ark. Be a Noah who was willing to build something that had never been seen before, for something that had never happened before. It had never rained before. So the people didn't believe him. And also he built something that had never been seen before. But there came a day where the heavens were opened, and the same thing that he built was able to preserve those who believed him and ushered in the next system of God and for what God wanted to do on the entire world. So my last word of encouragement or round up would be to say, build that ark, build that system.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lovemore. I'm not going to forget that too. Build, never been heard, never been seen. I'm going to add not even understood till it came to purpose, you know. Yes, I'm also going to do that. I'm building my ark. Mr. Joseph, are you back? Mr. Joseph, Helen. Oh, I hope we don't really have serious network issues today. Kenya is my favorite country. Please don't have network issues, not now. Okay, before I hand over this podium back to Dr. Brian, I want to say I deeply appreciate everybody. I'm just, thank God we are, in front of our screens. You would have said, I'll probably be jittery if this was a live event because I know the caliber of those I'm speaking with. And I also want to thank Dr. Brian for the opportunity. He literally dragged me out of my shell. If I was an egg, he broke the shell today. Thank you so much, Dr. Brian, and the entire team. And I want to thank everybody for your time and resources. It's amazing to listen to you. And just so you know, even though I'm the moderator, I kind of represent the everyday person. I mean, I'm listening with the ears of someone that's just listening, that's not on this platform with you. So Dr. Brian, your words of conclusion, and then we can end the meeting for today. Dr. Brian.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I want to thank you very much for the amazing work you've done here today. And I want to thank all of the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it. This is our time. Let us rise up and take the systems. We waited for this time, and we are so grateful to God that we are alive at this time. It is our responsibility to keep the word in its place in destiny. This is it. Let's get it done. Thank you very much. And I'm hoping that we can keep this conversation going. We already send you emails letting you know that this is not all of it. Now, the global system REFRAME is a project. This is just a tiny part of it. There's a lot more. We're gonna be engaging with you and helping you understand exactly how to play a big role in what is happening today. Thank you very much for watching, and I can't wait to talk to you again. And thank you to all of the panelists. Thank you to the moderator, Peju. You've done amazing work, and I love all of you.
Bye. Thank you.